пам'ятаю нашого неволі, я полкового знамена, дивлюсь на нього я востаннє, у нез'ясованій журбі, всю кров мою всі скидання, воно вібрало у собі, всю кров Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались з кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячий хотар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там пихцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 316 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine and rounding out one of the last few weeks left in the first year of the war. As you can see, we finally reached the purple markers again, which means that this is the end of this week. So if you want to see every single event that we've ever gotten on film on this channel, today is the day to click on this link and check out this map, because tomorrow we're going to be creating an entirely brand new map from scratch again with brand new markers. Speaking of which, a lot of y'all, it looks like, are going insane in the live chat right now, yelling, Igor! Which has become a channel legend of a joke after the past few, I guess you could say like a week or two, really, Matthew, hasn't it been?
Something like that. Pretty close to it.
It's been something like that. And also, every once in a while, we saw a couple of y'all ask, we need Igor merch. Where's the Igor merch? And of course, we knew that a lot of y'all wanted Igor merch. So, today, we are starting a limited edition run for Igor limited edition merch. I'm not kidding. It's actually here. You can go on to theenforcerstore.com. The link is in the description below, and you can get some of this cool looking merch that has Igor on it. Of course, it helps this channel to keep running, and you also get something cool out of it. So it's kind of like a win-win in a way. And also, Matthew really did a great job on the designs with this one. I thought it was pretty cool. So with that,
oh wait, I made it.
Yeah, of course you did. Well, wait a minute, who
I
made
was playing, by the way.
Matthew had someone in a sweatshop make this design. Okay.
Also, if you're interested, you can get it at enforcerstore.com. The Enforcer always forgets to plug the URL, but there you go.
Well, yeah, you can get it at enforcerstore.com, but the link is also in the description below since you're watching the stream. Just go down there and click on it, and it'll take you right over there. No thought necessary, just one left click, and you're there. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from the merciless plug. Of course, make sure to go check it out. And we're now going to be moving into what we're talking about in the thumbnail and the title, because I'm not lying when I say that Ukraine has wiped out several units over today. We're going to start off with probably the most interesting one on film. In the area of, I believe this is the Dzhankoy area in general of Ukraine, but let me go here real quick and I'll just show you all the video. We can see Russian air defense firing into the night sky. Quite interesting. And, oh, I don't think they did their job, Matthew.
Really?
Some guys are going to get their pay docked for that one. I wonder why. But it looks like, at least from what we know right now, the Ukrainians have hit a base in the western side of the Crimean Peninsula. We're not really sure as to how severe the damage is. Last time anything got hit in Crimea, it was quite severe. They hit 2 airfields there, which forced the Russian Air Force entirely out of Crimea and then into mainland Russia. And then after the drone attacks recently in mainland Russia against the strategic bomber fleet, almost all the Russian Air Force is now out of the region and out of the theater entirely and elsewhere in other bases that are safe, at least relatively. So it's very interesting to see that they're hitting another one, and we'll be trying to get some information on this one and see how, I guess you could say, devastating this really was. But moving on up into the area where I'm actually talking about, a lot of y'all know about the school in Makiivka that got blown away by the Ukrainians, and dozens of tons of ammunition went up in a ball of fire, and also a couple of hundred Russian soldiers did as well. We're guessing it's probably around 200 right now, because some Russian officials are now starting to say that they're not giving exact numbers, but it is in the hundreds. So it may just be 200 or 300, but it may also even go up to something like 300 or 400. We're not really sure. But moving on into the area of Tokmak, they did it again. Believe it or not, they did it a second time just days after the Makiivka school attack. They hit a building in Tokmak, and according to the Ukraine's general staff, around 80 Russians were killed in this single strike on this building. Now, I'll be going into the description of this Reddit post. Quite interesting. We rarely don't do that, but I'll be going down here and finding it. One second. It says the link is in the comments. So let me whip this over here real quick, just in case there's some weird stuff in the comments. And let me go grab it. So let me scroll on down, and there we go. So, let me scroll down and make sure to get to it. Alright, so, this is on Pravda. but they give a link directly to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, which gives it enough credibility for me to say this is completely accurate. And so, here we go. The quote from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Regarding the losses of the enemy, a strike on the 3rd of January on the cluster of the occupiers' manpower and military equipment in the area of Tokmak in the Zaporizhia Oblast has been confirmed. The losses amounted to about 80 wounded and killed Russian servicemen. So about a whole other company's worth of strength wiped out with a single HIMARS missile, or maybe a couple. I'm not really sure. It's probably a couple, probably like 3 of them. But you can still kind of get the idea from this that they got obliterated again. Like they did in Makiivka, and they're not learning. They're not going to change anything that they're doing. We already know that. And what's even funnier about this is that this comes just right after Gherkin sat there and said on the Telegram post, there are many more places in Ukraine where Russians are stacked up on top of each other like this, and where the Makiivka school can happen again. And it's already happened just 3 or 4 days later. So I gotta be honest with you, Matthew. It seems as though Gherkin, who was one of the main founders of the DPR and LPR, he's now sitting here and realizing how incompetent the Russian military really is, and how incompetent the people are that he has allied himself with. And now he's like, oh crap, we're getting screwed over everywhere because they're just so stupid. And we,
long enough to figure that out too.
I mean, it took them way too long. I mean, hell, has anyone seen like how the Russians did in Chechnya and Georgia? It was horrendous. Like, you know, I don't even know why anyone would side with them just for the fact that they are the most incompetent country on earth when it comes to anything militarily. But moving on from that little clip, we also got another video somewhere in the area, but this time, interestingly enough, this was located to Vasilivka. And a lot of y'all are like, huh, that's weird because Vasilivka is only just about 24 miles away from Tokmak. Let me make sure to measure that out to see if I'm correct. Wow, I got that right. It's 24 miles exactly, nearly. So about 24 miles away. And so it's like, well, that's kind of weird. This is all happening in one spot. And it is, and that is kind of interesting to me too. And we can see that another Russian command post was hit in Vasilivka this morning, and we can see the Russians showing off the damage that's been done to their headquarters unit and how badly it's been destroyed. Excuse me. It looks as though the headquarters has been blown wide open. And that's the end of the video, but once again, you gotta say, the Russians' command centers always have an open mind, open roof policy. That's something that we always know. Whether the Russians are actually alive anymore to use their open minds is another question. Usually people don't survive that whole experience. But it's also interesting to know, Matthew, that they have an open roof policy. I've never really heard about that in the Russian military or anywhere in any other military. It seems to be something exclusive to the strategy of Russian command centers to have an open roof policy.
Interesting.
I would say it's very interesting. I think a lot of countries around the world ought to look at these command posts because while it's good to know that they're open to everything, open roofs, open mines, open vehicles, open to surrendering, we also need to take note that these aren't really the kinds of ways you want to be open. You usually want to have a closed roof policy, and you usually want to have, at least in this instance, in the literal sense, a closed mind policy. Because having an open mind physically and anatomically is not really that healthy for you. At least that's what the general surgeon told me. And so with that, we're going to be...
like Ekaz said, it's an open grave policy, actually.
Ooh, I didn't think of that one. That was actually a really good one. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from this little clip. But before we move on from this whole area, one thing that was very interesting today, Matthew, is that all of the command centers and all of, I guess you could say, the barracks, bases, whatever you want to call them, they were all hit here in this far eastern area of the Russian-occupied area, around Tokmak and Vasilivka, and also down in Crimea as well. And it's very interesting to see, because this is one of the areas that many people have thought and believed for a while that the Ukrainians will be conducting some kind of action in. It's almost obvious. It's either Tokmak or Svatove, one or the other, and it looks like they're striking everything down in Tokmak and the Melitopol area in general. Now, well, of course, we're not going to get into OPSEC about what exactly they're going to be doing. There's only really two things they can do, but we're not going to get into the exact details on either one and how they'll probably work. But considering that we're seeing this, I'm going to be honest with you, Matthew, they're probably going to attack somewhere else. Because that's usually what they do. But, you know, then again, we don't really know. We'll just have to wait and see. But one thing we do know is that the casualties are mounting for the Russians here in the southern area, and they're hardly even fighting against the Ukrainians down there. And so, we're now going to be moving on from all of this news and on into Russia, because, you know, a lot of Russians have ended up becoming 200s and 300s from these little missile attacks that have occurred today. And one thing that they can always count on is the love and compassion of their family, Matthew. Their wives at home, who are always worrying about their death and don't want them to ever die because they love them so much. If only that was true.
That's not in the Russian dictionary. They don't know what that means.
So I'm going to show you this, Matthew, because speaking about the undying devotion and love to one's husband in Russia, this was actually quite an interesting conversation here. I'm just going to let this play out and let y'all see it for yourselves.
Путина торопишь, вот твой мужичок топит за Путина, а чё он до сих пор не мобилизованный и за жопу Путина не умирает?
А его еще пока не призвали.
Меня призовут, я пойду, я не отвечаю.
Свой сам идет.
У нас, подожди, у нас еще сейчас вторая мобилизация будет. Когда мы там
Чё,
ответы зацепим.
хочешь 4 ляма получить, да? Он в черном пакете.
Да, хочу. Я говорю, я хочу. Я тебе говорю, я ворую.
This guy is getting under this
God.
woman's skin. Also, how do you like this, Matthew? He said, do you want him to come back in a black bag and get 4 million rubles? And she's like, oh, hell yeah, I do. Like, no question about it. It gets even worse here in a second. Watch this.
What's that, like $20 too?
Yeah, you know, that's a good question. How much is
Oh, here's $20.
million rubles? 50, nah, bull. I'm calling cap. That's not how much they're getting. They're getting water park tickets and chocolate cake. They're not getting $55,000.
No way.
No way.
There's no way possible.
No, I'm calling that a straight up lie. Also, ew. The ruble has rebounded from where it was in February, but it looks like it's starting to drop off again. The cooking of the books didn't really work for too long.
I guess you can call that a rebounding somewhat. It went up from what looks like 9 cents to like 18 or 19 cents.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that's a big rebounding down there. They really surged back, and now they're dropping right off the precipice again. But still, you know, the funniest thing, Matthew, is that at their lowest and at their highest, 1 ruble is still worth a penny. Like, 1 ruble is still just worth 1 penny, and that's it.
That's really something else, really, when you think about it.
Honey, I need more toilet paper. It's okay, just use the rubles. Oh, okay. Because it's literally just a penny per piece, per ruble. It's cheaper to wipe your butt with rubles than it is to go buy toilet paper at that point. I would just use rubles. But anyways, we need to get back to this video, Matthew, because this is going to get worse.
Back to the loud lady.
Yes, back to this shrill lady. I believe this may actually be one of Starsky's ex-wives that he was talking about on stream last night, because I can see why he's divorced. But anyways, let's get back to this video.
Мужичок, она хочет тебя туда отправить, чтобы 4 лям получить.
Да, я не скрываю, он в курсе, и зато себе куплю машину охуенную и буду ездить и вспоминать о нем постоянно.
Oh my god! She's like, I'm not even hiding that I want him to die. At least I'll have a nice car and I'll drive it and remember him. What? Why would you be married to this woman? Like that is. Also, watch this.
This is probably the nicest Russian female that's ever existed.
Wait, watch this, man. Watch.
И вспоминать о нем постоянно.
This guy right here, as soon as she said that, his face locked dead onto the camera and he didn't move his head at all, and he was considering his entire life decisions at that point. He was like, was it all worth it in the end? Was this really worth it to do all this? The answer is no. And also, I gotta tell y'all, in case if y'all don't know, that's not really normal for anyone that you love to sit there and say, yes, I would be more than happy for him to die so I could get some cash. That is not really a loving relationship right there. That is the complete opposite. Not really what you want to go for. You know, not that I really have much experience in that regard, but that's generally the going rule. Also, someone said they're joking. I don't know about that.
No way.
Nah, I don't know
you don't
about
joke about topics like that.
I'm going to call on that one, because if she was joking, then why isn't he in on the joke? He's been quiet the whole time after she started this, like, quote-unquote joke, because it seems as though it's kind of sinking into him that she doesn't really care. And also, this isn't that far out of the norm for a lot of Russians. You also have to remember, we watched a woman send off one of her kids in Crimea to the war, and she said, that's okay, I got a second one, so if he dies, I still have a son. You know, you gotta remember that a lot of Russians are just cold people. You know, and this is definitely one of them right here. I mean, hell, I've never heard anyone say it just this bluntly before, especially with the person they're talking about sitting right beside them. Man. Anyways, we're going to be moving on from that little clip and on into the next one. Now, I can see a lot of people, you ever heard of tongue-in-cheek humor? That's not tongue-in-cheek. That's not tongue-in-cheek. There's tongue-in-cheek, and then that's just completely crass, like a normal, like we've seen. And so we're now going to be moving on over into the next bit of news we've gotten from Moscow, because, of course, 1420 has made a return, and I always have to show 1420 stuff, because 1420 runs a great channel, and he also puts out a lot of great content. And so if y'all could, make sure to go over to 1420's channel. If y'all haven't, make sure to subscribe to him. Also, by the way, Matthew, a little bit of a continuation of a story, and I'm sure a lot of y'all from last night who were watching will be very interested to hear this. The guy who did the skincare routine joke, you know, that we watched on stream last night, that was absolutely hilarious.
Right.
He actually left a comment on last night's stream.
Really? What did he say?
He said something like, I guess my accent is very popular in the algorithms, and so I pinned his comment and hearted it and put it at the top of the stream. So if you go back and look at it, it's there. And I mean, like, that was actually really cool. I didn't know he was, like, going to find our YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so with that, it's now time to get on into 1420's video and check out what the youngins think of the Putin, or as we call him, the devil.
Нам стало интересно, что у нас в Москве молодежь думает по поводу Путина.
Ребят, я пацифист.
I gotta pause this real quick and say that when this video started, this man right here has the most dilated pupils I've ever seen. Like, it looks like he's living in fear every minute of his life.
По поводу Путина.
Ребят, я пацифист.
А при чем здесь пацифизм?
Я как-то в последнее время стараюсь быть вне политики. Уже вся голова кипит по этому поводу.
Блин, ну...
That dude creeped me out a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Не знаю, ребят. Я не люблю его. Почему? Почему? Ну вот, знаете, есть такое подземелье, где гоблин такой живет, и ему за золото, короче, кидают. Вот так я считаю. То есть Путин как...
Dang, you just called Putin a goblin.
Он кидает золото. Не
Ooh,
знаю.
he's laughing now.
Молодец, да, политик, лидер и борец.
Есть же вот такое мнение, особенно на стране, что молодежь какая-то оппозиционно настроенная сейчас.
У нас среди знакомых много кто за Путина, но против Навального.
Почему?
Ну, сложно сказать на самом деле. Я никогда не спрашивала у знакомых, как бы это было не особо интересно, не тема для обсуждения.
Not a topic for discussion. Interesting.
Путин. Что можете про него сказать?
Ой, я думаю, это очень грустный человек. Мне грустно, что у нас нашей страной правит такой грустный человек. Вот. И надеюсь, что когда-нибудь это закончится.
А почему он именно грустный, а не вредный, не злой?
Грустный, ну, я не испытываю дикой ненависти, наверное, к людям. И даже к нему прям дикой нету. Мне просто очень жаль. Его, наверное, сформировала как-то жизнь так.
She calling him, saying he's got a mental disorder or something. He's a schizo, Matthew. There's people in the walls.
Может быть, психические расстройства, я не уверена, конечно, но мало ли. Вот.
Ну, то есть отношение скорее такое, ну, неприятное.
Да, конечно, безусловно.
Wow, oh my god, is this depressing or what? Like, hell, this place looks worse than North Korea. Like with the apartment
Yeah,
blocks.
seriously.
Jeez.
This is Moscow?
Yeah, this is Moscow, Matthew, like the glorious capital city. This is the best that Russia gets in most places.
I guess this isn't the small little propaganda district.
Yeah, this isn't central Moscow inside the ring road where everything's all kept up and high end and nice for foreign tourists and stuff. This is real Moscow where most of the 10 million people that live there live. They live in conditions like these. And that's something that's always interesting to me, is that the Russians always show you videos of the ring road of Moscow, and I guess you could say kind of like New Moscow, which is their financial district, and everyone's always going, wow, Moscow's so modern and so nice. It makes the United States look like we're falling behind leaps and bounds. The interesting thing about that is that they pump almost their entire national budget into 3 places in Russia: central St. Petersburg, central Moscow, and the financial district in Moscow, to try and make it look nice so that way they can make it look like they're ahead of everyone else. But it's taking the entire economic power of their country to be able to pull that off. That's why most places in Moscow still look like this: absolute squalor.
Ew. I'd rather live in the rural areas than this.
Yeah, I mean, it's rough.
Интересно, вот мнение молодежи. Как вы относитесь к Путину?
Нормально.
Почему?
Потому что плохо нельзя, страшно.
Ну вот очень многие нам отвечают, что вот, ну, вообще никак.
Ну, это то же самое. Ну, народ боится. То есть, ну, никто не хочет воевать. В этом дело. Типа, кто хочет воевать, за что? Такое.
Ну вот вас, может, кого-нибудь там мобилизовали.
Ну да. Ну, знакомых, друзей. Ни ответа, ни привета. Уже месяца 3. Живы они, мертвы, целые, не целые, ну, никто не знает. Они там и все.
Ну как вот при таком можно там вот нейтрально относиться? Должна же вот какая-то оппозиция быть.
Но толпа тут не поможет, даже если миллионы выйдут на улицу, это ничего не изменит. Это изнутри все должно происходить. Просто так, ну, ничего не изменится. Ну а в Беларуси были протесты, причем такие серьезные, это ничего не изменило. А у нас будет хуже.
В Казахстане вон были тоже протесты, вроде как поменялось.
Ну, немножко не тот режим, мне кажется.
То есть,
попроще.
То есть должно все-таки изменение идти с верхушки.
Да. Так просто, я думаю, ничего не изменится.
So pretty much this guy said, I'm just on board with Putin so I don't go to the disappearing place, wherever that is. So he's not really on board with Putin either. It appears that almost everyone is either indifferent to Putin or they're against him, at least in the younger groups of Muscovites in Moscow. So that's pretty interesting to see.
That look they had on his face, I told you a million words compared to like what he was actually saying.
Yeah, everything he was, also his tone, he was speaking with a lot of apprehension about everything. Like, should I really say this? Should I really say what I want to say, or hold back a little bit just in case if something happens because I say something? Like, he was being very reserved with how he was talking about it, which also says a lot.
Also, another thing, he said that rising up in the streets wouldn't do anything. I mean, if the people rose up, that would definitely like cause a change, at least in my opinion. I don't think the officials in the government have to necessarily rebel for there to be a change. That's definitely a defeatist attitude coming from them.
Well, I mean, you know, people can rise up in the streets, but I have to be honest with the guy, unless if there is some kind of a change or some ambitious person who would step up in the government, historically, usually nothing changes if the people rise up. They just get put down, and if the entire government is solidified and the military is behind them, then they can generally keep control regardless of what public opinion is. Every time you ever look at a successful coup or a successful revolution of any kind in any country for any reason, there's always some intergovernmental support there. Like if you look at, for example, Nazi Germany, Hitler tried to do the beer hall putsch. Remember, it was just an uprising, I guess you could say, of the citizens of Munich, and then they got put down and he got arrested. But once they started to build up some support in the Reichstag and he finally got appointed as chancellor, then the Reichstag burned to the ground. He blamed it on the comics. Sorry, everyone. Usually connection issues don't really happen often, but that's a perfect example right there, because Hitler did the violent uprising of the citizens approach in Munich. It didn't work. And then he went through the change from within the government approach, and then that succeeded. So and also there's a lot more examples of that, but to make it brief, I'll just go with that one. So he is right in that way. And I think there are a couple of opportunist Russian politicians that would probably back up what the people are doing and try and change the government from within, but it would still be a pretty uphill battle for them. But with that, we're going to let the video continue.
Раз лучше не говорить. То есть это в очередной раз доказывает, что у нас в стране не демократия, а больше диктатура. Поэтому я думаю, на этом все. Это много говорит.
Свобода слова, все, у нас ее нет.
Вообще реально думаете, там, выскажитесь где-нибудь о нем, потом на следующий день придет ОМОНовцы, ОМОНовцы, все, там, дубинками по заднице надают.
Ну, я думаю, распространенные случаи, что медийных личностей забирали, и не медийных личностей тоже приезжали к ним соответствующие органы и допрашивали, избивали и тому подобное. Просто обычные рядовые граждане. Впрочем, в общем-то, все.
Не, ну вообще, мужчина хороший. Ну, есть, конечно, у каждого президента, я считаю, что есть минусы, но наш президент достойный.
Ну вот что вот, там, Путину не хватает?
Чего не хватает?
Кроме земли лишней, конечно же.
Чего не хватает? Смелости.
Oh, okay. Well, we got our first Putin supporter.
Отношусь плохо.
Почему?
Gotta scan the block real quick.
He looked for the SFB before he said
До
anything.
этого не было такого же мнения?
Ну, такой вопрос прям это простой, очевидный, скажем так. Ну, коррупция. Путин ворует всю жизнь.
These are some brave kids.
Yeah, I mean, like, the fact that they're even saying anything, considering you can get put in prison for it, it's very interesting.
Мы знаем, что от него ждать. На самом деле вообще не знаем, что от него ждать. Судя по всему, что сейчас происходит, мы не знаем, что от него ждать.
Вот знакомые, может, ваши, они какого мнения придерживаются?
Такого же.
То, что надо все менять.
Да.
Еще 20 лет нужно подождать, пока мы все тут подрастем.
Не хочется еще 20 лет ждать. Что там... Ну, не будем ему пророчить ничего.
Хоть против нас применяется большое количество санкций, и хоть мы...
Hey, sorry for interruption. See right there, this young man has a flag, black, yellow and white flag on his arm. It's a flag of Russian Empire. That's what it is. Bye-bye.
Не на лидирующей в сфере жизнедеятельности людей, и, в принципе, низкий достаточно уровень жизни в пределах Европы. Но мне кажется, что если бы был бы кто-нибудь другой с менее, скажем так, стальными нервами, то мы бы зависели во многом от Запада.
А что вот плохого?
What the hell was that answer? It didn't even really make that much sense.
It was double talk.
Yeah.
Что вам плохо живется? Зачем вам другой президент?
Смена всегда должна происходить, потому что даже у нас в законе прописано. Да. То, что сейчас он стал делать, до этого, может быть, было окей. Но то, что происходит сейчас, это не окей. Это вообще не окей, потому что ты смотришь, что происходит, как уезжают все твои близкие, достаточно друзья, это 60%, которые просто бросают тут все, они принимают экстренное решение, что им нужно уезжать. Ты смотришь на людей, которые страдают от действия наших, и как, насколько всем фигово от этих действий, и как даже знакомые, с которыми был в близких отношениях, они из-за этих действий начинают агрессировать на тебя. И это неадекватно с любой стороны. Но не хочется, чтобы так происходило, и просто действие кого-то сверху, все менялось вот так. Потому что ему захотелось, потому что он так решил, потому что он с кем-то что-то не поделил.
Interesting, they have a street cleaner for the snow.
I wonder to what extent does the FSB actually go and track these people down? Do they like limit it to priority targets, or do they get literally anybody that says anything, like even the kids?
I'm assuming it's not really a lot of tracking down, because we can see so many people that openly say they're not really for it. I believe they're looking and arresting anyone who gets into any kind of public protests over it or is a ringleader for these protests. I think they single them out and go and arrest them. But beyond that, it appears that they are leaving, I guess you could say, unimportant people as far as the mechanical motions of this entire thing is concerned alone, unless if they become a part of it.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I said that really stupidly, so it's very interesting because it really didn't make that much sense. Looking back to the video.
А вот лично для вас, вот что он хорошего сделал, такого показательного?
Не знаю, мне нейтрально, если честно. Ну, как сказать вам. Ну, мы живем в Москве, у нас есть все условия для жизни.
Почему?
Потому что раньше мне он не нравился, потом сделал довольно хорошее решение по... Ну, почти все в моей семье так думают, поэтому я тоже...
She didn't really give an explanation as to why.
То есть в целом поддерживаете, правильно сказали. А почему?
Ну, потому что очень много людей лежали в подвалах много лет. Они когда попросили о помощи, он отреагировал.
I like how they just brainwash some people, like this one rare instance right here, where they actually believe that the Ukrainians just took entire villages and forced them to live in the basement of their houses for years on end. Like, that would just go and be completely uncalled, unannounced by anyone else in the world. It's only something that Russia knows about. And, you know, considering the United States and who we are and what we're always pointing out, because, you know, there's a thing going on in the area of East Asia right now that we can't really talk about on YouTube, but everyone knows is going on. And we know about just about every single injustice you can think of that happens in the world against someone, an oppression or some kind of a, I guess you could say, genocide, anything like that. We know about it here in America. But for some reason, everyone was completely off guard with this whole Ukrainians being kept in the basements thing, like some abused kids. We're completely unaware of this one for some reason. Only the Russians knew about it, and only they could save those people. That's stupid. And I don't know how these people actually believe that people were just being kept in basements. Like, Ukraine would just function like that. That doesn't make any sense.
Правда и есть то, что нужно сказать.
Мы по-дружески, нам как бы, не знаю, насколько безопасно говорить, но 30-70 плохо. У меня есть друг в Украине, который мне много рассказывает, и я вижу последствия некоторых действий. Вот.
The consequences of her actions.
Хорошего он сделал, вот конкретно для вас, для молодежи, в принципе.
Маш, что хорошего сделал Путин? Я не знаю, что ответить, честно говоря. Я в политике плохо разбираюсь.
Путин. Что вообще можете про него сказать?
В 3 словах как бы охарактеризовали.
Самый лучший мужик. Вот и все. В 3 словах. Самый лучший мужик.
Почему?
I like how they're playing our American Christmas music in the background.
Yeah.
Добрячок. Это очень сложный вопрос. Мне кажется, мы все очень долго об этом думали. Ну, во-первых, однозначно хочется сказать, что нет. Потому что даже если он какой-то супер крутой политик, и он такой, типа, я буду защищать наши границы.
You know, this is interesting. She said, who likes to protect the borders? What? Who the hell's trying to get into Russia, of all places? Isn't everyone trying to leave Russia? Protect the borders from who?
She's probably talking about the bottom part, the southern part of Russia.
What, like the Georgians are going to want to go into Russia? They got it better in Georgia than they do in Russia. Like the Kazakhs would want to go into Russia. The Kazakhs have it better off in Kazakhstan than they do in Russia. Who the hell is going and trying to flood into Russia? Nobody. Everyone's leaving Russia. They're popular. In case if you don't know, Matthew, let me pull this up. Russian population.
Or she could be talking about people trying to leave Russia. That's why he's protecting borders. She's trying to keep them all in.
I don't know, because here's the thing. Ever since 1991, Russia's population is continuously, although it has rebounded a little bit, it's continuously dropping ever since 1991. So unless if the amount of Russians, actual Russian people, are leaving at a rate faster than than outsiders are flooding into Russia, there is no way to account for that. Protecting the border, like, I gotta ask that again. Protecting the borders from who? Protecting the borders from what? There's nobody trying to go into Russia. Everyone's leaving Russia, or there's not enough kids being born. It's really both of those at the same time. Oh, wait, it didn't play.
Защищать наши границы и все такое, и он реально действует, то все равно, ну, никто бы не хотел, чтобы в соседней дружественной стране, допустим, там война началась. Не знаю, очень тяжело, мне кажется, спрашивать это особенно людей в Москве, потому что тут они на самом деле нормально живут, и как бы просто им пофиг на его существование, вот, а вот людям из регионов намного тяжелее. Но из-за того, что у них там повсюду телеки, они думают, что он крутой.
Sorry for interruption. What rural Russians think about Putin? We're going to publish this video in the next few weeks. Bye-bye.
He put an S because he said week.
Вот вы, наверное, всю жизнь вот живете, и у вас одна и та же картинка в кабинете где-нибудь висит в...
Не хотелось бы новый портрет?
Нет, я не знаю. Мне эта картина не мешает ничего не делать. Просто смотрю, все наблюдаю.
She just observes the Putin. That sounds bad.
Критиковать Путина после специальной операции. Вот у вас как вы пережили этот момент? С Украины, который.
Ой, не знаю. Нормально вроде.
Кто-то уехал,
Ну,
кто-то...
если бы
Из
кто-то
моей семьи
уехал,
никто не уехал, поэтому...
было бы плачевно, печально, грустно, а так как никто не уехал, то в принципе...
So they don't really know what's going on. They just support Putin for the hell of it. They don't even know about the war, really.
Защищает от нацистов.
Да тут... Какая у вас позиция? Мы решили сейчас, да, это быть?
Да нет, хорошо. Например, вот он, получается, делает, вот по вашим словам, он делает все для себя. А почему он не думает о народе?
Моменты, которые, может быть, и окей.
Нет,
но сейчас...
возможно, он делает для людей, но как бы забивая на мнение этих людей. То, что он один считает делать правильным, то и делает.
Вот какой, по-вашему, президент идеальный должен быть?
Открыт к людям, которые не закрывают.
That is a big problem in Russia, transparency.
Показывает ее скорее, говорит, что он такой же граждан, как и все, что он хочет помогать людям обустроить страну для комфортного существования, наверное, так.
И главное, чтобы он не был грустный.
Да, и главное, чтобы он не был грустный. Вот, ну.
Хочется... Когда-то раньше я думала то, что по факту Путин хорош тем, то, что... Я думала так. Он хорош тем, то, что по факту ему замену сейчас особо не подберешь. Типа ты даже... У тебя на слуху никого нет, за кого ты там будешь голосовать. А сейчас просто понимаешь, что людям хотя бы надо замену найти, чтобы люди понимали разницу. Потому что смысл власти в том, он уже у нас не президент, я не знаю, там не король, чтобы она сменялась. Мы должны видеть какую-то разницу в этом.
Вообще есть у него хоть один какой-то плюс?
Я думаю, наверное, единственный плюс это то, что мы все понимаем, как не должно быть. И впоследствии я надеюсь, что люди поймут, что они больше не захотят вернуться к такому периоду и будут стараться делать что-то с этим. Вот. Ну, как бы хуже, надеюсь, что не будет.
Ну, как думаете, вот...
And that's the end of the video. Of course, a huge credit to 1420 for providing this footage and showing us what young people in Moscow think about the war. And it looks like the large majority of them are not really pro-Putin. Some of them are indifferent. And then I would say a moderate amount, not a small amount, a moderate amount of them are pro-Putin. So pretty interesting to see, once again, a gauge of what a certain group, the younger group in Russia, thinks of Putin. And we're now going to be moving down into the area of Ufa, where we saw that saboteurs set fire to a military tent camp. The fire rages quite nicely in the winter weather, providing the Russians with vital warmth to keep their young alive. We can see one man continuing on his trip to get cigarettes. And that's the end of the video. But that guy knows what's up, man. He's like, don't worry about fire, mind business, smoke a cigarette, life good. Watch. He's just like, wow, that sucks. Then he just walks
He is
off.
speed walking though.
Yeah, he is speed walking. And also very interesting to see because the video caption says that saboteurs did this. I would honestly more so lean on a Russian soldier caught fire to this tent and now the fire's out of control. One or the other, still not necessarily.
Yeah, that was him speed walking by.
Yeah, with the cigarette. He had the cigarette that caught it on fire. He's like, don't look at it. I made a big mistake. Forget about it. But still, pretty interesting to see and good to know that some Russians will not be having a tent tonight during this cold winter weather. And so we're now going to be moving on into our last bit of news from Russia. In the middle of nowhere. We didn't know where this was, so I just put it down in a random area inside of Russia. But some partisans blew up a railway track in this video, and it looked quite nice. There we go. And the railroad's gone. And so with that, that's the end of that little video, but once again, that's posing some small problems for the Russians, considering that without railroads, they really can't operate, so they have to repair them before a train can run over them again. So with that, we're now going to be moving on out of Russia, because that's all the news we have. We can only go over Russian stupidity so much before it just gets tiresome and tedious. So we're now going to be moving on into Paris, France, because Paris, well, specifically the French president, has declared that they're going to be sending something brand new. Very brand, well, not that brand new, but at least in my opinion, pretty brand new in terms of the concept of how these things could be used in Ukraine, and we will, of course, be talking about that in just a second. But before we do, I have to remind y'all once again that the limited edition Igor merch run is on the store right now. Go to enforcerstore.com to get yours. So after that merciless plug, we're now going to be moving on into this poll because it looks like a lot of y'all are actually split almost right down the middle on the poll that was put up just 8 minutes ago. So I'm going to allow Matthew to guide us through it and see what everyone's thinking about this.
So this is the most diversified poll I think I've seen in a while. And the question is, do you believe Russian secret police track down everyone that speaks against the government? It looks like the most popular option is no. They only get priority targets, which has 32% of the vote. 30% goes to yes, they track down all of them. 29% said they randomly target dissidents, and 9% said unsure. Now on this one, I've got to say, knowing how incompetent the Russians are, I would say that they just randomly target them to try to make examples and deter other people from doing it. They definitely don't track down all of them, would be my guess. So I would have to go with the 28%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say it's actually a really split poll. Yes and the no option are about tied at this point. And I would have to go with they only get priority targets. Because one thing you have to remember is that the police in every country don't have the resources to get everyone. You can see that whenever any kind of protests or riots happen in any Western countries, like here in the United States, in the United Kingdom, in France, and in Germany, you can only kind of control them a little bit and arrest the ringleaders. That's all you can really do. So I believe that the Russians are probably just trying to target the main ringleaders and the people who are stirring up the dissent. And then once they get those people, make an example of them, the rest of them will usually quiet down and just mind their own business again. So I think that's most likely the strategy they're going with because it makes the most logical sense. And based off of, just the concept of there being a limited amount of resources and you can't do everything all the time, they would have to prioritize the time that they're using to get these people. And so they better pick the ones who are more important to arrest. And so with that, I hope that does address the poll fairly well. And let's get on into the next one.
All right, and the very first one I put up said, was the Russian screeching lady telling the truth or simply using dark humor? 56% said she was serious, 25% said dark humor, and 19% said undecided. Now, I'm going to have to say that if she was joking, that definitely went over my head. It seemed like she was being pretty serious to me. She must not like her husband very much at all. She wants the money, the 1 million or whatever it was rubles, which is basically nothing. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say that I don't think she was entirely serious because nothing in that voice sounded like it was sarcastic. Like it was just sharp truth. Like yes, I want him dead. I want the money. It wasn't like, yeah, I want him dead for the money. You know, it wasn't anything like that in tone. It was like, yes, I want him dead for the money. Give me. And then I was like, whoa. And then the guy, you could tell he didn't react like it was a joke or sarcastic. He reacted like it was serious too. And he just sat there and was like pausing because he found out that to his wife, his life is worthless. So I would have to say she was serious in my opinion. But of course, it's open to debate. That's why we have a poll. And so with that, I think we have one more poll, Matthew. If it's the Igor
Actually
one,
fresh out.
Okay, good. I was about to say, if it's the Igor one, we'll skip over that one because that one was just there for the 10-minute countdown. So with that, now having covered the polls, let's get on into the questions. So with that, what do we got?
All right, so moving into our super chats. First up, we have an $80 donation from Duncan VR,
Holy
a channel
moly.
legend. And thank you, Duncan, very much for the support. And here goes the animal noises as usual. Duncan says, Bamuva, Enforcer, I want to see more ba animal noises. Ba. Where can I get merch mug of Russian General Clown? Moo Baba Ruff. D ETH to Putler now. Baba, chop off his toes, meow for this. Igor fun. Baba, moo, rough. Yeehaw! Please not too much Russian news, Baba. Oh, man.
And thank you so much for the support, Duncan. And also, of course, always hitting it with the animal noises. The Russian General Clown, I think we could probably try and make him a merch thing, but I don't really feel like he was that cool. You know, he was just kind of a little goofy, you know, and all of them are goofy. So we might look into that one a little bit. And also, let's see here. Trump's toes. Oh man. I was reading through it and trying to make sure I covered everything in this on Trump's toes. Like, oh. And then please not too much Russian news.
Flag alert.
Oh, again. Oh, man, yeah, you're right.
It's a short one this time. We're back.
Okay, good. So getting back to this, please not too much Russian news. We try and limit the Russian news as best we can, but you gotta remember, Duncan, brain rot's gotta occur every once in a while, so that way everyone can understand what we're going up against, just to get a good laugh at it. And also, I think it's good to show because, unlike Russians who sit there and spout their beliefs, we actually bring their beliefs and their ideas onto the stream and we shred them. We just rip them apart in front of all of you. And I think that's something that's pretty good because it gives y'all an insight as to what they're saying. And then we can sit there and counter everything they're saying as they're saying it. So I think it's pretty good, but we'll make sure to keep it on the down low so that way brain rot doesn't set in too bad and people end up getting sick or something. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. Always coming in with the animal noises, something that's about a tradition at this point. And so with that, we are on to the next one, but thank you so much once again for the support, Duncan, and being an LSA soldat. Well, not a soldat. You're actually an old guard, for sure. And so with that, on to the next one.
And also, can you believe that some people probably listen to the Russian propaganda channel and actually, like, enjoy it? Like, they tune in every night to hear it?
Oh, man. You know, I don't know how people do that outside of Russia. You know, like, oh, I believe this so much. I know how some people do, but, man... 1 second, I didn't have enough coffee again. Like I'm having a bit of a struggle, everyone, right now because I'm trying to drink less coffee so I don't stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning. But then at the same time, because I'm not drinking enough coffee to stay up until 4 o'clock in the morning, I start yawning super early in these streams because I only got like 3 hours of sleep last night. So I'm sorry about that, everyone. I don't mean to do that. I'll probably try and drink more coffee and just stay up till 4 again. But with that, let's get on into the next one.
All right. And also, thank you very much, Duncan, for that support once again. And the next one we have is from BC Skyman, who's also a channel legend, who puts in a $54 donation. It says, could the Ukrainians hit Moscow infrastructure without triggering a nuclear response from Russia, Slava Ukraine, and also Enforcers Rock?
And thank you so much once again for the support, BC Skyman. Also, welcome back. We've noticed that you were missing, and of course we got an explanation, and I hope that he does get better. Also, let him know that the entire Lee Spring army is behind him and cheering him on. Hopefully he'll recover well from the cancer that he's got. I don't know what kind, but cancer's still rough regardless. And also, speaking of people who are having a little bit of a rough time, is Pankrat here tonight?
Let me check. No, he's not here tonight. He must be taking a night off. He can't have any stress, so like seeing the Russian news might put him over the edge.
Yeah, it might put him over the edge. I hope that he's doing okay because, you know, the last time we heard from him, he was having he had a mild heart attack and he was in the hospital. So I hope that whatever is going on with him, we don't know what it is. I hope he's all right. But we're cheering everyone on, and of course we try. You know, I try, and there's thousands upon thousands of y'all who watch this channel, and I try and make sure that we pay attention to every single one of y'all, and if y'all are having a problem, we back y'all up and support y'all through it. If I haven't, I'm sorry, because there's a lot of y'all, and I wish I could give all of y'all an equal amount of attention, but like there's thousands of y'all, so I'm sorry about that. But moving on from that and back to what you said, the question was, could the Ukrainians hit Moscow infrastructure without triggering a nuclear response? They can. They could hit Moscow infrastructure without triggering a nuclear response. However, that doesn't bar other responses like full mobilization, because by that point, now they're threatening the metropolitan area of Moscow, which will freak out those citizens, and then the Russians may be able to draft them into the military without too much of a gripe or a complaint. That still doesn't get past the problem of them not being able to be supported, not being able to be backed up by any kind of tanks, equipment, artillery, ammunition, rifles, body armor, helmets, anything like that. They'll be completely devoid of that, but the Russians would be able to probably declare a full mobilization without any problem at that point. So, yes, they could, but there would still be consequences to that action later on down the road, because we know the Russians don't play fair, and they'll try and do something stupid in response to the Ukrainians doing something that would seem pretty logical. And so with that, I got to thank you so much once again for the support, BC Skyman. And also, you rock, BC Skyman. You've been here literally forever. And on top of that, you rock because you got the cool cars. I can't get over that, how many cool cars you got. And I think we bring this up every time you throw in a super chat now. But BC Skyman's got some amazingly cool cars. A lot of muscle cars from the 60s and the 70s here in the United States. And I got to tell you, man, those things are clean. Like, you got some really nice looking ones. But with that, we're not going to go down that. Say what?
I love that old Corvette with like the double windows on the back. That is so nice.
Hey, Matthew, right now when I'm talking about cars, Matthew's over there just frothing and drooling, and his like keyboard's getting all covered in drool because he's like wanting to talk about cars for the next hour. So we're going to try and avoid that rabbit hole for now. We'll probably get into one in the question segment because, you know, it's fun. But with that, we are on to the last question of this segment, and thank you so much once again, BC Skyman, for being a channel legend, and I hope you enjoyed our response. So with that, on to the last question.
All right, and up next, we have a $40 super chat from Hal Rose, who's also a channel legend, who says, Enforcer, thank you, NATO, and count me in for 2023. Pick a question from the live stream, if you would, please.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support. And also, counting you in for 2023. You're going to be in for the long run, man. And also, hopefully this war will be over by midsummer. I'm assuming that, I'm still going with that time frame. I think it'll probably be midsummer. We'll probably, if it's looking like the war won't end by the mid-spring, we'll probably revisit that and maybe change it, and I'll say I was wrong on that. But I'm still going for midsummer, so not that much longer, but, you know, we never really know. It could go on. But still, I got to thank you so much once again for the support. You are also a channel legend, man. You've been around as, I think, as long as BC Skyman, if I'm correct, Matthew.
I believe so.
And I got
serious voice crack, by the way.
I think so. But I gotta thank you so much once again, and I hope that addresses the comment fairly well. Now, of course, we got to get to that live chat. And so with that, what do we got for a live chat, Matthew?
All right, and the live chat goes to, let's see here, Nick Moore, who says, Enforcer and Enforcer Matt, I recently saw a documentary about the natural depopulation since 1991 in Russia. Do you think this is why they are kidnapping Ukrainians to try to repopulate?
Maybe in a way. This is something that actually a lot of European countries are dealing with, and there's two ways to deal with this problem. One, and I'll show you two countries because these are two different examples. One, it's the Japanese response to population decline, which is just to try and encourage people in Japan to have more kids. That was a huge deal of Shinzo Abe, now deceased after the assassination that occurred on him in Nara, Japan. But that
rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace. He was a pretty cool guy. But that was his huge deal while being the prime minister of Japan, is he was pretty much running a, I don't really know how to say it, but he was running a child making program in a way, giving government subsidies for people to have kids, trying to encourage people to have kids any way that there could be. that's one way to solve the population crisis. And in that way, the Russians are not doing that at all. They're trying a little bit, and of course, the Russian government is really trying to encourage Russians to have kids. But the problem is that it's not really the problem of Russians not having enough kids. It's the fact that every 25 years, there's a generation that doesn't exist due to the Second World War. That entire generation was wiped out during the Second World War. So when they're coming around to having kids, they're not having any. And so the population slumps off every single time that generation comes around to needing to have kids. So that's a bit of a unique problem for them, and of course a problem that the Soviets made. The other response to this problem, which it looks like in a way, I guess you could say the Russians are kind of trying to do this with their, I guess you could say, deportation of Ukrainians from Ukraine and into Russia, is the German way of dealing with the population issue, which is to try and funnel in immigrants. The Germans don't really care where they come from. You could see that they try to utilize the Polish flight that occurred, I guess you could say, kind of like in the late 90s and early 2000s. A lot of Polish people would immigrate to Germany, France, and the United Kingdom, which, if you ever look at the United Kingdom, that actually caused some problems over there with the Polish arriving in the United Kingdom, and that was a huge deal. But in Germany, they capitalized on that one first, the Polish fleeing out of Poland to try and find more economic opportunities elsewhere, and a lot of them ended up in Germany. Then the next thing came around, and the Germans were like, hey, sweet, we can double dip on immigrants. The Syrian civil war happened, and a lot of refugees started flooding out of Syria, and so the Germans thought, if we take on millions of these immigrants, they can become part of our workforce and help the population to grow. Now, we're not going to go into, all of the political side of things, whether that's a good thing, a bad thing. I'm just giving you all the options here of how you can avoid a population drop, at least mitigate its effects. But that's the two ways that you can, is either the German way or the Japanese way. Those are the best examples I can come up with. And it looks like, in my opinion, the Russians are trying to take a mix of the Japanese way and also the German way, because they're encouraging their people to have kids, but it's not really working all too well. And so now they're trying to fill in the gaps with immigrants. And so I think out of the two, they're failing because they're not rebounding their population or keeping it steady. It's still dropping as we're talking right now. So, yeah, I mean, maybe the Ukrainians are part of some kind of an immigrant plan in a way like that, where they're trying to boost their numbers through immigration or forced immigration in a way. I'm not really sure, but that's kind of like the general rundown of what we're looking at. And I guess in a way it does kind of look like that. Or it may be them trying to pull the Ukrainians out of Ukraine, because, of course, Ukraine in most places is really dense with Ukrainians that have Ukrainian culture, and they're trying to disperse them across Russia, so that way Ukrainian culture gets watered down, it gets lost in the giant monstrosity that Russian culture is inside of Russia, and then they can populate these occupied areas with ethnic Russians that'll bring in Russian culture and will be a problem for decades to come. And it'll also make the Russians look more legitimate, because now they're actually protecting quote-unquote Russian people that speak the Russian language and also practice Russian cultural values. So with that, I hope that answers the question the best I can, and thank you so much once again for sponsoring that live chat question. That was actually a pretty interesting one, and I hope what I explained made sense. And also, if y'all have anything to add to it, because of course I can't cover everything every time, and sometimes I just do forget things, let me know and we'll see about revisiting it and correcting if anything was wrong. So with that, also, Happy Broom said, forced immigration, isn't that kidnapping? Yes, it is. I would really honestly say, and I don't think this is a correct term, it seems kind of like extortion of the Ukrainians, but, I don't think that's a correct term. Anyways, with that, we're now going to be moving on into France and on into Paris, where we heard that the French president declared that these cool little vehicles that I absolutely adore, called the AMX-10 RCs, will be sent to Ukraine soon. These things are like the coolest light tank that I've ever seen. I love these things. I think they're great. Not only are they very maneuverable and very quick, they also have a heavy-hitting gun. And it meets all of the criteria for this thing to be, in my opinion, heavy-hitting, I guess you could say, scout car. It's great. I mean, like, this thing is so cool. Let me pull it up real quick for y'all. AMX 105. Let me make sure I'm getting... Yeah, it's the AMX 10. Oh, is this thing cool or what? I gotta say, I really like this thing.
It looks like it might like maybe wobble like to the front and back when you like stop too quickly or something. It looks like it's out of balance.
Get out of here. Look at these. I mean, these things are just neat. I really like them.
Nickname that the rubber ducky.
Crank, crank. The French always have a thing with designing their tanks to look like ducks. It's really weird. Like, have you ever seen a Char 2C?
I have not.
So this thing, just real quick as a rabbit hole, this thing was the biggest tank that was ever built and actually used by a military. The Mouse is technically the heaviest, but there was only 2 prototypes, so it was never used. This thing, they made 10 of them, and they were actually used. It weighed something like 74 or 75 tons, I believe, and it had a crew of like 12 guys. So it was a literal land ship, if you could ever call one that. And this thing, for some reason, also looks like a duck. I don't know what it is with the French and designing tanks that look like ducks. This thing kind of does look like one, but it's still really good. It's a really good vehicle. I'm a huge fan of it. I think it's good. And also, maybe the French will send something that's kind of close, at least in designation, which is the AMX-10P, which is their version of an armored personnel carrier. This thing is also pretty neat, and almost all of them come with a 20mm gun on top, which, if y'all don't know, is some pretty decent firepower for an APC to have. But moving back to the AMX-10RC, I think this is a great thing to send. There's only 457 of them that have been made. All of them are operated by the French for the most part, with a couple being used elsewhere. I've tried to explain it the best I can, and then I said, I'm sounding all goofy, but anyways, I like it. I think it's neat, and hopefully the French will continue to send more stuff. Because I think, honestly, the French have really been showing off some of their cool military technologies like the Milan ATGM, the AMX-10RC, the Caesar SPG. They've been sending over some cool stuff so far, and hopefully they'll keep on sending over other neat stuff. And so with that, we're now moving on from France, and from that neat little AMX-10 right there, and we're now moving on into the Czech Republic. Because one thing that the Czechs also do, one thing that really all European countries do, is they all make neat little weapons for themselves, and the Czechs have some pretty cool ones. As you all know, probably one of the coolest ones is the Dana SPG, which is a wheeled SPG with a turret centrally mounted onto the vehicle. And when you see this right here, they're transporting more. And remember, Matthew, we saw that thing in action with how the auto loader works inside of it and everything, and the whole turret's pretty much automated.
Oh, that was that one?
Yeah, the super neat, super advanced seeming SPG. That's that one.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, they're sending another one. So hopefully it makes it to Ukraine soon, and the crew is ready to use it immediately. Now we're going to be moving on from the Czech Republic and on into Romania, where I just noticed that I actually marked this one red. It's supposed to be purple. But in Romania, where, of course, another thing happened, and I keep on wanting to just talk about that one because it's just hilarious to me how it happened, you know, not talking about the aspects of it or the guy or anything, but I just think it's funny, and I will say this for a second because I just think it's hilarious. I think it's hilarious that Andrew Tate guy got found by the Romanian police because of the pizza box that he showed on stream, which was in a certain town in Romania. It was a mom and pop shop, so they just showed up to the town, figured out where he was, and arrested him. So I was like, that's just hilarious.
Right after you got done mocking the kid that talks about the climate.
Yeah, and then that kid responded to him, and then he got doxxed pretty much for doing that. He made a stream about it or something, showed the pizza box, and then he got arrested. The whole thing was just hilarious from every aspect. The fact that the climate change kid and that guy were battling it out, it's just hilarious in its own right. And then on top of that, he gets arrested. You know, it's like a whole circus without having to pay for the Ringling Brothers circus tickets, you know? Like, it was just top-notch comedy. Anyways, we're going to be moving on into Romania and moving on from that little funny side point. And we're going to be showing y'all some more Kerpies on their way. Holy moly, that's a lot of Kerpies.
What's this fella doing?
he's just cruising down the street on my 64. I gotta be honest with you, Matty. I've been counting. I think that's more than 20 Kirpies.
Yeah, we're not good with math, but still.
Of course, more Kirpies on the way. I don't know if you can tell, and hopefully the Ukrainians will be able to use these things greatly. Also, although I did mention it, I asked that y'all don't really get into fights over that guy. I was just bringing up the whole thing because I thought it was funny, and now some people are telling me that the whole pizza box thing wasn't accurate. And in my defense, I don't really pay attention to stories like that. They just kind of cross my radar in the middle of me doing this, and I'm like, huh, that's funny, and then I just move on. But anyways, we're going to be moving...
I gotta say that out of all the military vehicles, Kirpies are actually pretty nice, like for the foreign vehicles.
Yeah, they are, aren't they? Like, oh, let me show this thing again. Also, Kirby. Did you see that Kirby showed up? I always think of that little Kirby thing whenever I'm talking about Kirpies, but Kirpies are pretty cool. I think they're really well protected. Of course, the Ukrainians have been getting tons of these things and using them quite well. In all around, I gotta say, man, the Turks are really showing that they too can make some pretty neat equipment in this war. The Bayraktar, the Kirpies, more Baykar drones. I mean, like, they're really going overboard with showing like what kind of technology they have and what can be used. And I believe they're even providing their own version of the ground-launched small diameter bomb. So they're really going all out and showing what they're capable of. And it looks like the Turks are starting to resurge as their own arms producer and dealer, kind of like they used to be under the Ottoman Empire, although you can kind of debate that a little bit. Anyways, we're going to be moving on from the cool Kirby, and of course Kirby, and we're now going to be moving into Ukraine. And I wanted to show you all this one real quick before we even get to Frontline news and everything, because this was really nice to know. We actually saw Stas, the boy from Bakhmut, the boy y'all remember probably a lot, who was wearing that little brown fuzzy looking coat. He has made it to Chernivtsi, where he's living in peace for the large part. And so here's the video of him and his new life in Chernivtsi.
Стасик, скажи, ти хотів виїхати давно? Тепер ти віриш, що все буде нормально?
Ти чув ці вибухи зриви? Так? Боявся чи ні? Ти сміливий.
Сначала страшно было, а потом как-то уже привыкали. У нас даже дети во дворе, когда еще более-менее было, дети во дворе гуляли. У нас даже военные останавливались, у нас. И то военные текали, а дети гуляют, так смотрят на них, что вы текаете, что вы это. Они уже привыкают. Я даже не знала, куда мы едем. Это мы уже потом, уже на полпути узнали, что у нас везут сюда, в Черновцы.
Oh, cute cat.
Ну, конечно, домой хочется очень. Это адаптация, вот это очень тяжело.
За домом скучаешь?
Нет, там стреляют, там взрывается, нет.
I feel sorry for Stas, and I hate that he had to live through that, but it's a good thing to know that he's made it to Chernivtsi, and now he's safe. And of course, he was really captivating on this channel for the while he was there, and we were showing the videos of him interacting with the soldiers of Ukraine, because he was a pretty funny little character, actually, and he also was very talkative and was showing around the soldiers and his story of his life and what had been happening to him. And it really gave us an insight as to what kids that are still living in Bakhmut are dealing with on a day-by-day basis. And of course, it's good to know that he's now in safety in Chernivtsi, and hopefully he won't be in any kind of danger or trouble there from Russian missile attacks. We're now going to be moving on out of Chernivtsi and on towards Uman, where we saw that another boy, this one was a little bit more fortunate than Stas. He's living somewhere in western Ukraine and luckily didn't have to deal with any kind of bombardments or battle occurring in his hometown. And he has been in school on this day, and his dad returned on leave from the front lines and was able to meet his kid at school. And it was a very nice video. And I want to show y'all that one too. We're always showing y'all videos of people getting slammed by mortar fire and everything else, but there is a good side to everything going on here, and of course the reason why the Ukrainians are fighting, which is to defend their home and defend their families like this soldier has. And so with that, that's the end of that little video. Wanted to give you all a little quick picker-upper there. And we're now going to be moving on into Kyiv, where we also had a little bit of additional news today coming from, I guess you could say, the guy Budanov. Now, Budanov is a little bit high up there in the Ukrainian government, and it looks like he's celebrating his birthday today. And look at the cake he got.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow, look. It's Russia. Slava Russia. You know, whatever they say. But it looks like he's cut that thing up with a bayonet. Also, I like that bayonet. That's a nice one. Quite interesting.
That's pretty nice.
So, happy birthday to our boy Budanov. And so with that, we're now moving on from Kyiv and on into our location unknowns, which we have a little bit of today, starting off with our first clip, where we saw a Ukrainian Mi-24 pulling a hard right turn. Also, I gotta mute that. And quite an interesting view right here of the Mi-24. For some reason, with the camera attached to the front probe, it seems as though the Mi-24 has come up to the camera and is going, like, sniffing it or something. That's a camera. We can also see their wingman over there to the left. And that's the end of the video. But once again, the Ukrainian helicopter forces are hard at work as usual. Moving on into our next bit of news, a little bit further over in our location unknowns, we also saw that the Norwegians are now providing a new service. Y'all may have heard of Uber and Uber Eats, and now the Norwegians are creating Uber Ammo, as they're now providing 10,000 155mm shells, suitable for the M109s, the M777s, and so on. And we can also see that these things are being loaded into a Norwegian, if I'm seeing this correctly, do my eyes deceive me, or is that a C-17?
Looks like a C-17 to me.
Looks like a C-17 to me. I didn't know the Norwegians had that kind of ability. Let's see, Norwegian Air Force. Let's pull up what they got, because I didn't think that they would have supply aircraft that large. Let's see here. Where are your aircraft? Transport. According to this, they only have C-130 Hercules, but that is clearly some kind of a... Let me make sure the markings here are correct. It says Royal Norwegian Air Force. Let's go back and look at the tail
No, these have jets on them instead of props.
I actually think that's an Italian Air Force C-17. Let me go pull them up. Italian Air Force Roundel. No, that's not their roundel. It's like a little pendant thing up there. But it does... I don't know. I don't know what country that would be. If anyone has an idea of who's...
Is it Hungary?
Well, let's pull that up. Hungarian C-17. It is!
Also, I stole that from somebody. Let me give them their credit real quick. Let's see. Nicholas Karupas.
And thank you, Nicholas Karupas, for saying that. And believe it or not, interestingly enough, because everyone's always giving the Hungarians heat that they're never really supporting Ukraine and they're pro-Russian, they actually sent their own C-17, this one exactly. If we look at the tails section, actually, this is 03, this is 02. But they sent almost this exact C-17 to Norway to help transport some of those shells. So I feel like Hungary ought to get some brownie points, some bonus points for this or something, because the fact that they actually sent an airlift unit to go pick up those shells and then transport them into Poland and then into Ukraine is something commendable, to say the least. And also, I love the C-17s. I think it's a really good looking plane.
Aren't they like one of the most expensive planes to operate in the military?
I don't think so, but let's pull that up. Is the C-17 expensive? Let's see. The C is one of the most in-demand cargo planes in the world. It can transport troops and cargo. And what is the most expensive military aircraft? The B-2. Let's see. It doesn't look like... It doesn't look like it is, according to what I can find. It's just that the price of a single one is a little expensive. But I feel like that's actually in the normal range of like a commercial airliner or a normal cargo aircraft, you know, converted into a cargo airliner. So I think it's pretty decent. Now, I bet you this, though, Matthew. Probably a really expensive plane to maintain and fly is the C-5 Galaxy, just due to its sheer size and how many of them there are. Like, that's got to be...
seriously.
That's got to be a pain in the neck. Let me get rid of this, the Hungarian part of that and just put in the C-5 Galaxy. This thing is the biggest transport aircraft that the United States operates. And guess how many we have?
We have, like, what, 5?
I think it's something like the 50s. Yeah, we have 52
Oh,
C5
gosh.
Galaxies. A load of them. And these things are huge, by the way. If y'all don't know, just to give y'all an idea of size, this thing, we're going to go down to the specs so that way I can make sure to get these numbers right. This thing is 250 feet long. And also 222 feet wide. If we
It needs 3,600 feet of runway.
1 second. Let me see how long the 747 is actually shorter than the C5 Galaxy. That's how big this aircraft is, and we have 52 of these things that can transport really anything anywhere.
That's wild.
Yeah,
And I can imagine there's only like a few runways it can actually land on.
Oh man, well, that's true, but at the same time, Matthew, you know that defense money doesn't go to nothing. If we needed a runway somewhere to land these things on, we would probably have it built within a week. Like, it's guaranteed, hands down. I bet you we would be paving a runway in the middle of the desert if we had to land one there.
Yeah, probably so.
And also, like, if y'all don't, for real quick, for me to give a lot of praise to the Department of Defense and some of their spending programs and making this thing back in the day, this thing has such a lift capacity and a load that it can carry entire C-47 Chinooks across the world, and I believe 2 of them at a time, if I'm correct. So it's an unbelievable aircraft. This thing is amazing. I would say that it's on a level of its own. The only thing that got close to this was the Antonov 225, and there was only one of those. And this thing, there's 52 of them. You can also see that they're unloading the cockpit of another... Wait a minute. This is the cockpit of a C5 Galaxy, and they're loading the cockpit of a C5 Galaxy into a C5 Galaxy to transport around the world.
Isn't that cannibalism?
I think it is. I think that's like some kind of like a Galaxyception or something like that, where you have like a C5 and a C5 or something, but really bizarre. And
Also, how big is the C5 compared to the Mira that Ukraine lost?
Let's see, C5 versus AN-225. Let's see some size comparisons here. So the C5 Galaxy is about... Wow, dang, the Antonov 225 was huge. It had a wingspan that was about 70 feet wider. It had a length that was about 25 feet longer. It also had a wingspan area that was almost 50% larger.
Dang.
The C5, though, is taller. The thrust per engine, the Antonov 225 outclassed the C5 by an entire 7,000 to 8,000 pounds of thrust. Let's see, the... payload. Okay, now you see where the Antonov 225 really comes into play. The Antonov 225 can carry twice the amount of C5 Galaxy can in one go.
Oh my goodness.
But
I know the thing had sentimental value, but that thing seriously had some really good cargo specs too.
That thing was a beast, but here's something interesting though. The range of the C5 Galaxy is much farther. It's almost twice as far as the Antonov 225 can travel in a single go. It's either 5,162 nautical miles versus 2,430. So the C5 Galaxy appears to be exchanging its ability to carry a payload for its ability to have a much longer range.
Interesting.
So very, very, very interesting. I didn't know that the Antonov 225 outclassed in almost every regard the C5 that badly, but man, that really makes the Antonov 225 really look like a marvel of engineering, because a C5 Galaxy is that big. Just look at that. That thing's huge. And the Antonov 225 was larger than it in every single way. The only thing it didn't beat it in was range and height. But anyways, we're going down a rabbit hole a little too long here about the C5. Still neat to see that the Norwegians are able to get their ammunition over there on a Hungarian C-17. We're now going to be moving on to our next bit of Location Unknown news, where we also saw the SBU showing off their sweet, cute little puppies at death that they use wherever they need. Also, these things don't attack people. Some of them are just bomb-sniffing dogs, but this thing does look pretty mean. Also, I'm going to have to mute it. But look at that dog. That thing is happy, man. It's doing a job, and it loves it. It looked over at the... Did you see that look it gave the camera, Matthew?
Yeah.
It was like, look at me, I'm doing my job. Are you getting this on camera? He's like, hey. Man, that dog's pulling on that harness like Mr. Corgi pulls on a leash. That dog is happy as hell, man. That thing is definitely not an attack dog. It's some kind of like a bomb-sniffing dog or something, because it's just way too happy to be doing its job. Oh, wait a minute. No, I think it is an attack dog.
Yeah, I was about to say, that thing is way too tightly wound.
No, it's not an attack dog. It's apparently just...
I still think it might be.
I don't know. I don't really know how an attack dog would work in a modern war. I think it probably is just a bomb-sniffing dog, but this thing can really go after some snowballs.
Not a horse.
He's riding the dog. The Russians are about to say that, oh, no, the Ukrainians are out of gas and now they're riding dogs instead. Oh, and there's another one. That's the end of the video, but of course, this thing, I always mistake the Belgian Malinois for a German Shepherd, but it is a Malinois, and those things are very deadly. They are very dangerous. And a lot of police forces have now phased out the German Shepherd in favor of the Belgian Malinois, because the thing's just so fierce and also crazy. So with that, we're moving on into the next bit of Location Unknown news, where we also got another look at a BTR-4's interior.
Ні, вже їздили. Просто сюди заїздили, проїхали, і вони сказали, що радійки де-то виходять.
And that's the end of the video, but I just wanted to show you all that again because the inside of combat vehicles is also very interesting to look at. Finally, our last bit of news, we're going to skim over this one because, you know, same old, same old. Russia's just losing another 720 troops per day, another 6 armored personnel carriers, another 10 supply trucks, 2 tanks, 6 artillery pieces, 3 drones, and an anti-aircraft system again. So, just another day, another amount of heavy losses for the Russians, and another good day for the Ukrainians. Now we're going to be moving on from the location unknowns, and we're now moving on into the Northeastern area, where we actually saw on Deep State UA today, and I'll show you all this. Oops, wait, we moved. Let's get down here. It appears that today the Ukrainians have really started to make ground, and it looks like they're encircling the small village of Dorova right here, which is one of the last defenses that Russia has before the Ukrainians reach Kreminna. So it appears that they're starting to run out of time to protect Kreminna, which will open up the entire western flank around Severodonetsk and Lysychansk on the other side of the river, and so the Ukrainians could just move around and almost encircle the town and probably force the Russians out that way. So pretty interesting to see, pretty good to know. And that's a major amount of news today. And we can also see something else very interesting happen around Dubrova today as well. The first ever T-90S was destroyed. And we can see it right here. Many T-90s have been destroyed in this war, and even the quote-unquote venerable T-90M. But there's something very interesting about a T-90S. You see, this thing is never supposed to be used in the Russian army. This thing is actually supposed to be used in the Indian army. The Indians buy these things, and they call them a Bhishma, which is their version pretty much of their main battle tank. And so the fact that the Russians have now used one of these in Ukraine and that it's been destroyed is confirming that the Russian armor situation is so bad that they're now canceling export orders, and instead of sending those to where they're supposed to be, they're now using them to try and fight Ukraine, and they're still losing them. So this is giving us an idea that Russia's tank situation has almost completely deteriorated, and they're having to try and take any tank they can to send to the front lines to just make up for some kind of numbers somewhere. So with that, that's the end of the video. Nice to see that once again, the Russians are in a terrible situation, having to use that thing. And we're now moving down into the Bakhmut area, and first to the area of Zhenivka, where we put this marker down. It's somewhat accurate, probably not at all. But we can see that the Ukrainians are trying to set up some kind of an interesting, I guess you could say, data link system, a really jank one. But it appears that this is how they're operating all of their drones from wherever they are in the country. And they're now setting up control rooms and all other kinds of things. So I gotta say, they're getting really advanced and really intricate with what they're doing with these drones here. And I can't wait to see how advanced and how well put together the Ukrainians can get this thing on a budget. Because if they can do it on a budget, then that means that a lot of countries around the world that support the West and probably don't want to spend exorbitant amounts of money refitting their militaries could probably implement this, do about as good a job, maybe a little worse, but for a much cheaper price. We're now going to be moving on down into the area of Partisan as well, where we saw some Kadyrovites around somewhere showing off their destroyed base. Also, interestingly enough, Matthew, I don't think we can even talk about this on stream at all, but I actually found out that those people I showed you on that video while I was making the news today were actually Kadyrovites that were doing that to a normal Russian. Yeah. So, you know, it looks like they're not just TikToking, they're doing other stuff. And now they're showing off their base. I guess that's karma. And that's the end of the video with a green screen at the end, but their base was completely destroyed. Wherever they are, they're not having a good time, and apparently that's causing them a lot of stress, if you know what I mean, Matthew. Anyways, we're moving on down into the Bakhmut area, where we can also see what's left of some of the houses that are around the village. A Ukrainian actually walked through one of them and showed us the absolute destruction that's there. And so, here's the video.
Сейчас в квартире одной из жительниц Бахмута. С Харькова. Оба? Не.
Робила з хлопцями з СБУшниками з Вінниці.
Ой, а можна я туди прийду?
Пройдіть. А тут, ну, бачите, все осталось.
And you see, of course, the house has been completely destroyed.
Жилой дом. Жили обычные мирные люди.
Ну, я думаю, сюда вот можно заезжать. 28 уже приезжать сюда. Хай собираются. Михалыч, открывайте окно.
It's unfortunate to know that people have to live in conditions like these or be forced from their houses because of this war. And that's the end of the video, but of course, another sad look at what Bakhmut has turned into due to this war. We're now going to be moving on down into the next part of Bakhmut, where we actually got an update on Bakhmut from the soldier of Bakhmut. So, here's the video.
Вітання, Україна, вітання з ранкового Бахмуту. Друзі, оперативна ситуація в місті Бахмут наразі практично без змін. За минулу добу тривали штурми піхотні і невеличкими групами, і досить великими групами, і вночі, і вдень. Артилерійські обстріли, РСЗО, авіація, все застосовувалося, але лінія оборони стоїть. Є деякі незначні там подвижки по лінії, але вони завжди були там 50-100 метрів, відступали, наступали, відбивалися. Це вже було 1000 разів за ці більше, ніж півроку. Тому, скажімо так, критичних змін немає, вся лінія стоїть, вся лінія тримається. Тому не хвилюйтеся, Бахмут – це Україна, Бахмут є, був і буде українським містом. Слава Україні! Смерть ворогам!
And that's the end of the video, and of course, it seems as though the position is Good. Also, I see a lot of y'all asking about the thing that I've alluded to a little bit with Matthew that I showed him before the stream. And RF from USA said, are you talking about the Russian soldier hanging himself and leaving a note for his wife saying he did it because of the shame over his abuse by the Chechens? No, I'm not talking about the letter. I'm actually talking about the video of what happened to him because someone actually took
Oh, it was the same guy?
Yeah, it's the same guy. He later killed himself.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so yes, that's what I'm talking about. And I don't encourage y'all to go find it. I just stumbled on it today making this news, but there's an actual video of what happened to him and it was horrendous. And honestly, that made me think that if the Chechens are that useless that they can't really fight, they're always taking videos behind the lines just trying to look good, and then they go around and do that to average Russian conscripts that are fighting on the line. I would, if I was a commissar, I would just give orders to my soldiers to shoot the Kadyrovites on sight. If they ever got near the unit, just light them up, because they are that was next level sickness. I haven't seen anything like that. I showed it to Matthew, and now Matthew doesn't really see everything I see making the news every day, so it was really shocking to him. But it was sickening to say the least. Anyways, with that, we're now going to be moving on into the next bit of news from the Bakhmut area, where we can see the Wagner unit getting turned into hamburger meat as normal. And we got to mute that because that's...
North Korea?
I have a feeling that's copyrighted, although it sounds like it's from the Ponchabo Electric Ensemble, but we're still going to play it safe. I mean, you see that they're getting the Wagner unit pretty well. Right now they're playing Choloma on the Wing or something.
BC Skyman said that's Ukraine music. You hear that in all the stories over there, or stores.
Interesting. That was actually... Let's unmute it for just a second. Okay, yeah, it is Ukrainian music. For some reason, at the very beginning, though, I swore that it was the Ponchabo Electric Ensemble. Like, I just thought it was. Now you see some Russians. It appears that they're listening to the manual and they're lying down.
What are they doing down there?
What are they doing? Are they cuddling? Also, another bomblet dropped on top of them, or an artillery. I think that's actually artillery. They're still down there. Oh, that one got their friends. They're next. And that's the end of the video, but once again, nice to know that they're getting the Wagner unit quite nicely. And so with that, we're moving on into the next bit of the Bakhmut news, where we can also see an American medic in the back of an ambulance sorting their supplies and getting ready for the next wounded soldier. Of course, this is actually an American volunteer by the name of Rebecca Maciorowski. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, or it's Maciorowski. I'm not really sure. But still, it's good to know that there are American volunteers over there helping out each and every way that they can. And of course, medics are one of the most important things on the field to make sure that soldiers can have confidence to know that they can fight as hard as they need to. And if they do get injured, they will survive. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from that little clip and on out of the Bakhmut area, because beyond that, the front line is not moved at all to even go over and analyze. So we're now moving all the way down to Marinka, where we also saw a look at Marinka today, and it's looking as bad as normal. Also, I gotta mute that, but you can see the destruction across Marinka. There's not even a building left standing anymore. It's all been turned into literal piles of rubble. We're now going to be moving out of Marinka and on down a little bit further south into a drainage ditch where, interestingly enough, Matthew, it appears that a Mista was washed away from its position and ended up on the side of this drainage ditch.
Crazy.
Interesting. I guess
I didn't know they floated.
Oh, they don't. This thing was driven at an odd angle and it fell into the drainage ditch, and then the Russians abandoned it. So once again, stupidity at the finest. And also, it's good to know that the Ukrainians got another one of these things free. And the title, this caption is correct. These things cost $2.5 million each. so they're not really cheap. We're now moving on from the Marinka area and the Donetsk area as well, because once again, not a lot of news to report there. And we're now moving on past the Crimea, Tokmak areas as well, because there's nothing to report much there. And so now we are moving, and let me make sure I'm right. Yeah, we are moving up to Kyiv to address the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Вічна слава всім, і тут, слава Україні. And so, without further ado, here's the speech.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці. Сьогодні є нові і потужні результати від нашого дипломатичного марафону. Франція виводить європейську оборонну підтримку України на новий рівень. Я дякую президенту Макрону за це лідерство. Отримуємо більше бронетехніки, зокрема колесні танки французького виробництва. Це те, що дає чіткий сигнал всім іншим нашим партнерам. Немає зараз жодної раціональної причини того, що Україні досі не постачалися танки західного зразка. А це дуже важливо, щоб відновити безпеку для всіх українців і спокій для всіх європейців. Саме перед новим Рамштайном такий сигнал надзвичайно актуальний. Треба поставити крапку в російській агресії саме цього року і не відкладати жодну з тих оборонних можливостей, які здатні пришвидшити поразку держави-терориста. Сучасна західна бронетехніка, танки західного зразка – це якраз одна з таких ключових можливостей. Хочу подякувати сьогодні Данії після розмови з пані прем'єр-міністром Фредеріксен. Поінформував її про актуальну ситуацію на передовій, про те, що в Росії зараз планують чергову хвилю агресії на найближчі місяці. Ми маємо зробити цю хвилю останньою, жодного шансу на реванш для терористів. Я почув сьогодні тверду підтримку України з боку Данії, готовність разом посилювати наші позиції в боротьбі проти агресії. І дуже важливо, що цього року Данія захищатиме безпеку та інтереси Європи і міжнародне право так само, як і після 24 лютого. Говорив сьогодні з президентом Румунії. Це була змістовна і різнопланова розмова. Подякував пану президенту за той рівень співпраці, якого ми досягли минулого року. Стосується це і політичної співпраці, і оборонної, і економічної також. Ми зробили дуже багато разом для захисту Чорноморського регіону. Впевнений, що цього року зробимо ще більше. Як я вже говорив, щодня буду продовжувати таку дипломатичну активність. Це марафон переговорів з лідерами держав-партнерів та друзями України по всьому світу. На будь-яку нову спробу агресора додатково мобілізуватись і кинути проти України що ще, ми вже відповідаємо і будемо відповідати дуже конкретно і дієво. Саме тим, що необхідно на полі бою та захисту всієї території нашої держави. Кожен з наших партнерів володітиме цілком конкретною інформацією про потреби нашого захисту. А мета у нас у всіх одна – швидше покінчити з російською агресією, швидше відновити надійний, довготривалий мир. З усіма лідерами проговорюємо нашу ініціативу, нашу формулу миру. Це 10 чітких пунктів, всі безпекові елементи, наша територіальна цілісність, повне виведення російських військ з території України та повне гарантування справедливості, тобто покарання усіх винних в цій агресії і в злочинах проти України і українців, а також компенсація усіх завданих Україні збитків за рахунок активів держави-терориста. Хочу сьогодні відзначити наших бійців на Бахмутському напрямку, зокрема спецпідрозділ ГУР «Шаман», а також прикордонників Луганського загону, які разом з бійцями Інтернаціонального легіону оборони України наносять ворогу численні втрати і вибивають окупантів з позицій на околицях Бахмута. Це хороший результат, і я дякую за нього. Кожен такий результат і кожен день невдач ворога на Бахмутському напрямку та загалом на Донбасі – це суттєве послаблення держави-агресора. Окупанти вже півроку переносять дату, коли очікують захоплення всього Донбасу. Ось очікували до Нового року, а наші оборонці знов демонструють успіхи. Окупанти постійно посилюють свої сили на Донеччині, вони роблять це і зараз, і кожен такий день з нашими успіхами – це новий доказ божевілля, самої ідеї нападати на Україну. Якщо лише такі новини з фронту здатні повернути відчуття реальності усім в Росії, доведеться це забезпечити по максимуму. І треба розуміти, наскільки це складне і болісне завдання. Але інакше не можна. Терористи мають програти, попри все, що вони пробують зробити для свого посилення. Я дякую нашим оборонцям Бахмутської фортеці, я дякую всім нашим воїнам, які витримують тиск на Солидарському напрямку і захищають позиції. Я дякую, звичайно, усім тим нашим бійцям, які дають доволі обнадійливі новини з Луганщини та деяких південних районів нашої держави. Я дякую усім, хто воює за Україну, дякую усім, хто нам допомагає. Слава Україні!
And so that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, and that also wraps up our day 316 news segment. Once again, wrapping up another week of news, and tomorrow will begin a brand new week. A whole new bunch of green markers, a completely empty map, and another couple of days left. Well, actually, about at this point, really, it's about 50 days away, I believe, until we reach the 365th day of this war. An entire year since I first sat down on this channel and started the first stream in the first hour of the war. And so I thank you all so much once again for watching the news tonight. We're about to be moving into the question segment and answering everyone's questions as much as we can, all of the super chats, all of the live chats that we can, and then we'll be rounding out tonight's stream after that. And so with that, guide us into it, Matthew. What do we got?
All right. So finding our way into the first poll. The first one said the U.S. is considering sending Bradley armored fighting vehicles to Ukraine. Will it happen? 79% believe so. It's very probable. 14% said unsure, and 7% said no, it is unlikely. Now, at the current state of our situation in the United States, I'm not really clear if this is actually going to happen or not. So I'm going to say unsure. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say I think that they will eventually be sent over. It's just that we don't really have an idea of when. Of course, like the HIMARS, we knew that at the beginning of the war, the HIMARS would eventually be sent over because it was one of the heavier artillery pieces that would change, of course, the war along with the M777. It's just that we never really have an idea of the window when people in the government will agree on that kind of stuff and finally have it sent over. So I do think it will be. It's just that I don't have a time frame as to when it will probably happen. But with that, I hope that addresses the poll fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And the second one says, which cargo aircraft do you like most? It looks like 46% said the Lockheed C-5 Galaxy, 30% said the Antonov AN-225 Mira, 7% said Airbus Beluga, and 17% said unsure. Now, out of all of these, I've got to say, I'm really a huge fan of the Beluga, but I got to go with the Galaxy just because of the sheer size of the thing. Also, the Mira is pretty cool, but I got like a personal connection with the Galaxy, so I have to vote for that one. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say, in my personal opinion, I think the C5 Galaxy is the neatest one of them all. I think it has a really cool looking design. That is not to say, though, that the Miria isn't cool. The Miria is almost tied for the C5, in my opinion, for many reasons. Also for its aesthetics, but still, I like the C5. Also for the fact that there's just more of them. There was only one Miria, but there was 52 C5 Galaxies out there. So with that, I hope that answers that poll fairly well. And with that, we are on to, I think, the last one.
And yes, the third one says, do you agree with Zelensky's frustration regarding not being supplied with Western tanks? 76% said yes, Ukraine should have them by now. 8% said unsure. 10% said no, the USA must prioritize OPSEC. And 6% said no for other reasons. Now, one thing I'm not clear about, I could tell he was frustrated by not receiving the tanks, but I'm not exactly sure which tanks he is seeking to get. And maybe the Enforcer can shed some light on that, because I really can't answer the poll for certain without that information.
I believe he's really looking for any Western tanks. I haven't ever really heard him get into exact specifics. If he was, though, I think it would most likely be some kind of an M1 Abrams variant, whether it be the M1A1 or the M1A2 is something I don't really know. But I think it will probably most likely be an Abrams because they're just the most populous one of them all.
Now, if it wasn't Abrams, there's several things you have to consider. For example, can Ukraine support the Abrams? Do they have the training to use it? Can they maintain it? Also, are we risking exposing any secret to the United States by sending them? But without knowing any of that, I'm going to have to say unsure. But Enforcer, what is your position?
My position on that would be we could probably do it fairly easily, believe it or not. We already have sent a large amount of M1 Abrams to foreign countries. The Australians have them, the Saudi Arabians have them, the Egyptians have them. Let me think of who else. Let me just pull up the map. M1 operators map. Let me just show you. So, it is Morocco, the United States, Australia, Taiwan. That is in the future. They don't have them right now. I know that for sure. Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Egypt, and that's it. But considering that the Iraqis have lost 550 Abrams fighting against ISIS and also other groups that they've been just, having to, of course, combat inside of Iraq, I would say that there isn't any security issues that could arise, considering that 550 of them have been destroyed, and if there wasn't anything that someone already didn't know about the Abrams, they would know about it definitely after all of those have been destroyed. We could also send them the export versions. That's also the reason why the Iraqis have so many of them and have also lost so many, is because they're not the finest and best American versions of the tank. They are export versions that have been downgraded a little bit in some aspects, so that way national security can still be maintained. And I think that if we were to send anything to them, sending over export versions of the Abrams, or modifying our Abrams to be export versions is fine by me. There's no threats that the United States could face from doing that. We've already done that before, and it's a very decent tank. It has some great sights. It has some pretty good reliability, and also it's just a beefy tank with a decent amount of armor, especially compared to anything that the Russians have. So I would say, yeah, it's fine. I think we ought to send some. So with that, I hope that does address that poll, in my opinion, on it fairly well. And of course, with that, we don't have another poll, I believe. And so, let's get on in to the question segment.
All right. So, moving back into our Super Chat questions, up first, we have a $40 donation from Colleen Emsley, who says, I've been sick. Oh,
I just had
I
to
couldn't
go
tell what that was there for a minute. But Colleen says, I've been sick to, wait a minute, let me try to work that out in my head. It's throwing me for a loop. I've also been sick too, but I managed to enjoy most streams. Thanks so much. And I missed a couple in negative 50C up here in Calling Lake. Made me think twice about building my home with 72 windows. Damn. When do you think the Russians will attack again from Belarusia?
Colleen's going to be living in Putin's palace up in Lake Calling.
I hope not.
Let's see where. Here it is, Calling Lake. I found it again, Matthew. Look at me. I'm perfect at geography. But I hate to hear that you were sick, Colleen, especially up there at Calling Lake. But 72 windows on a house? God. I mean, I don't even know what kind of house that would be. That would be like... Well, let's see. I can think of a few, Matthew. I think I already know of one, and you probably know exactly where I'm heading. Let me find it, though. Oh, man. Here we go. Blenheim Palace.
Blenheim.
Yeah, and I'm sure I've just pissed off the Brits. It's Blenheim, not Blenheim. I know. I'm just kidding. Also, they have this beautiful pipe organ in there. I love organs. I think they're really neat. And also, this is just a really nice building. I mean, look at that. That's just one of the sides. I believe that is the eastern side of the building, the eastern wing. The whole thing's beautiful, top down. We actually went here and saw it before, and the whole inside.
Then they're going to Blenheim?
They're going to Blenheim because, you see, Buckingham Palace is overrated. I hate to tell y'all, but it is. A lot of it isn't even in good condition anymore. A lot of it's deteriorated to the point that people don't even go inside of it, and they've cordoned it off due to mold issues. So Blenheim is kind of just like the better option. One, it's bigger by like 200,000 square feet. And two, I believe it's more ornate and nicer. And that's kind of weird considering that this guy is the Duke of Marlborough and the king is living in Blenheim Palace or Windsor Castle, which is really where they stay. Or Sandringham, or I believe it's not Sandhurst. It's Sandringham and then Balmoral. Yeah, that's the other ones. But still, I've got to say, if you're living in a house with 72 windows, there's got to be one like that. Also, negative 50 degrees Celsius. Do you know how cold that is, Matthew?
That's cold enough to freeze to death when you walk outside.
Yes, it is. That's like that episode from Star Trek. I think it was like the 4th or the 5th movie where they got put on the Klingon prison world and they threw the guy out into the snow and he died in seconds. They said, there is no escape from here. There is no guards. You will die from the cold. And then they put him in the camp and, they dealt with the shapeshifter and everything. But this is cold. Negative 50 degrees Celsius. Let's see here. 2 Fahrenheit. 2 Fahrenheit. I'm spelling it wrong, I know. So, negative 50 degrees Celsius is negative 58 degrees Fahrenheit. Extremely cold.
That's cold as hell.
That's cold.
But hell's hot, so it can't be cold as hell.
You know, and someone actually asked Matthew in the live chat earlier, what, Forrest, you never seen a snowplow before? No, I haven't. Where the hell do you think I live? Alaska? I live in Alabama.
You remember that?
Yeah,
you like kept that in your head and remembered it?
Yeah, dude, I remember everything everyone says in the live chat constantly. I'm always trying to pull it back up. It's just that I can remember the comments, but it's so hard for me to ever remember names at all. Like, that's not just a problem on stream. I can't really remember anyone's names in person either. It takes a lot for me to, like, ingrain names into my head. So in case if you ever do catch me in person and you're like, hey, I'm Miss Disa, I will know who you are then. But I can't attach names to faces. I know faces like the back of my hand. Like, I'll know a face and be like, hey, I know you, but I won't know someone's name. It's weird. But anyways, I do remember that one, and I thought that was hilarious because we're in Alabama. It only snows like one day out of the year here, and no one goes out that day for there to be a snowplow needed. So, anyways, I hope you do get better, Colleen, because negative 50 degrees, I'm sure that's hell on earth to live through, especially when you're cold. And also, thank you so much once again for the support and helping us to keep this thing running. This is viewers like you who help make this possible, so that way we can sit here and I can worry about all of y'all each and every day. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Makara, who puts in a $20 donation and says, you should go into explaining the Bradleys and AMX 10RCs going to Ukraine. It's what they need most and at the right time.
And I would entirely agree with that. And so let me talk about them. We've already talked about the Bradley, so I'm going to skip over the Bradley just for the reason I don't want to be redundant to some viewers who are here for that. But let's talk about the AMX 10RC, which stands for remote control. These things are remote control, as a matter of fact. I don't know if you know that, Matthew.
I didn't know that. What do they use, like those like really thick like crane controllers to use it?
Yeah, they do. And they can drive these things up to a range of 10 miles away from the operator.
That means they can be hacked then.
Yeah, I mean, it does.
Oh.
And that
security issue.
That could also pose a massive security issue. But you know something else, Matthew, that's a little bit more interesting than the security issues about the AMX 10?
What?
You've just been had. I finally got you back after all the times you've lied to me on stream and had me believing you at face value. I got you back. How does it feel? Because this thing isn't remote controlled. The RC stands for something totally different than remote controlled.
But I trusted you, though. You're the subject matter expert.
Yeah.
How do you do this?
I finally got him back, y'all. I finally got him back. And I'll never do that again, because then that starts degrading trust as to what I'm actually saying isn't true or not. Anyways, let me get back to
My trust has been degraded in you.
I've unsubbed. I unsubbed right now. I unsubbed. I hope
I'm
you know
unsubbing right now. I'm unclicking the bell, too.
You know what, man? That's it. I hate this channel. It's stupid. It sucks. The guy's got an annoying voice. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I've been on Meal Team 6 for 20 years. Anyways, getting back to the AMX 10RC. This thing is pretty neat. It has no armor, though. Of course, it's a light tank. Well, it's a reconnaissance tank. I call them light tanks. Hell, it is a light tank. Look at that thing. It's a light tank. It just doesn't have tracks. It doesn't have any armor to speak of, really. It can only deflect smaller rifle ammunition. Something like a 50 caliber will punch through it. Most French vehicles, actually. It also has a 105mm gun. And if you look at the specs on that gun, and I'll try and find it for y'all real quick. Copy. Bastard. And we'll take a look at this gun at armyguide.com. Designed as a light gun. We know that it was designed as a light gun. So, the firing range of this thing is 1.2 kilometers, 1.25 kilometers, or about a mile and a tenth, or a mile and an eighth, most likely. It doesn't seem as though we get any penetration specs on this thing to know how much armor it can shoot through. Let me see if I can find that for y'all real quick, because unlike the Bradley, which has the 25mm Bushmaster and the tows, the AMX 10's only real weapon is the 105mm gun. Of course, it has a 50 caliber machine gun and also a 7.62 somewhere on it. I believe the 50 cal's right there and 7.62 is right there. But those aren't really weapons that you can use against armor. Of course, the only one you can use here is the 105. So we're trying to find some stats on it. That's War Thunder. We don't want War Thunder. We want real stats. Let's see. Penetration specs. Let's see here. It seems as though it's a little bit hard to find the information on what this gun can do. And this is a bad gateway. Dang, we can't. Maddie, I think this is like some kind of a sick joke that the world's playing on me. I'm going to have to go to War Thunder to even try and get an estimate as to the pen on this gun. So...
You're going to War Thunder?
Yeah, I'm sorry, everyone. So, according to War Thunder, which is the only source I can quickly find, and I'm sorry, everyone, this feels like sacrilege right now, so forgive me for this, but it can do 325 millimeters of penetration with an APFS-DS shell, which is the dart. It can do 350 millimeters at any distance with the Heat FS shell because it explodes on impact. So, going off of what we know about public stats not being available for this gun, this is a heavy approximation and may not be accurate at all. So I wouldn't take War Thunder as an actual stat or proof of anything, because remember, this is a video game, so it's not like it's accurate at all. It may be accurate in some cases, and in case y'all don't know, there have been loads of people who have actually gone and violated national security in many different countries to try and prove War Thunder wrong about what they're representing tanks as. So we don't really know how much armor this gun can actually punch through. We have no idea at all. And it looks like War Thunder's only taking a rough estimate at the thing. And also, please don't hold that against me. I'm trying to find y'all a number the best I can. That was the only number out there. But yeah, we don't know how much the gun can go through. I'm guessing that it's got to be more than that. Obviously, it's not going to be going and punching up against tanks with 325 mils of pen. That's less than what an SPG-9 gets. I would assume it'd be probably somewhere around 500 millimeters of pen, so it's decent. It can probably take on a T-72 and take it out as long as it's not fired at first. So, I would say that most likely this thing is a heavy hitter. It moves a lot quicker. Heavy hitty. It moves a lot quicker than a Bradley as well because it's wheeled. It will not do well off-road, however, so it's going to be something that will travel mostly on paved roads or packed dirt roads or gravel roads. So it is...
I'm going to zonk it for that.
Yeah, well, no, I feel like it's filling in gaps that the Bradley won't be able to do as well, but it doesn't mean that it's better than the Bradley. The Bradley is great in its own regards and in capacities that the AIM-X10 RC cannot even get close to. And so with that...
look at that vehicle right behind it. That actually is like that little duck truck that they make.
Yeah, that's that VAB thing.
Yeah, that actually is the real duck.
I'm going to be honest with you, Matthew. The VABs are fabulous.
No, no, we can't let that one slide.
All right. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And I thank you so much for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And our next super chat goes to Panama Floyd, who puts in a $20 donation and says, I'm really watching the South. I'd love to see the Ukrainians shove them out of Crimea, and take a question from the chat.
And thank you so much for the support, and I would love to see them get shoved out of Crimea as well, and I think it may actually be happening sometime around. And also, we will make sure to get that live chat question as well. But before we get it, I got to thank you so much once again for the support, helping this channel to keep on running. And without further ado, let's get to the live chat.
And the live chat question goes to Travel Driven, who says, where are the vodka production areas in Russia? And why you ask?
That's a great question. I don't really know, but let's find out. Where are the vodka distilleries in Russia? If I had to take a guess, they're probably in the Ural Mountains. One is a distillery in Moscow, Russia, known for producing traditional Russian vodka. Founded in
state-sanctioned.
As a state, yeah. You remember, Matthew, the whole history I told you about Moscow's like, well, vodka is controlled by the government at all times in Russia.
Yeah, that sounds like Alabama with alcohol.
Well, they in Russia, they just make sure to do it so it's extra cheap. Here in Alabama, they do that to make sure it's extra expensive. But let's see, there are 300 vodka distilleries in Russia. How many are in America? How many vodka distilleries are in USA? Holy moly, we actually outnumber them by several hundred.
Dang.
But
The
I bet
Americans
you
are drunks.
But I bet you, Matthew, that these are like your little artisan shops. Like, I've got to have my. Oh wait, a minute, hang on. Let me really hit the Trump since I'm pretty much going there. I've got to have my IPA beer. It's delicious. It tastes like dirt water. It's so good. I love it. I feel like that's probably why we have this many distilleries, because it's like smaller ones, you know, that are just pumping up the numbers. I feel like Russia's are probably like the Honda manufactories of the vodka world. Like, they're just pumping out thousands of bottles per hour or per minute. So let's actually see how many liters of vodka does Russia make. We ought to do it by liter to see if they outproduce. So, holy moly, 20 liters of vodka per year.
That's the average Russian?
Yes.
That's less than I thought.
Versus the average Briton, who drinks about 3 liters of spirits per year.
Oh, they're not that bad drunks after all.
How much vodka is made in Russia? So now let's go to the United States. Let's see. Liters of vodka made in the USA. Oh, let's see. Is there any American? Yeah, it is, yeah. How much vodka is listed? Oh, it's from Russia. No, less than 1%. No, none of it's from Russia. They're not really into giving us a number, are they?
How'd they get these numbers, I wonder? Like, they just go up to the families and ask, like, how many liters of vodka have you drank this year?
Oh, about 20. Oh, okay, thank you. I don't know. I don't know how they're getting that number, but you know they're drunks when they have a vodka museum. That's bad. You know,
what's the museum good for? If you're not going to drink, you're just going to look at the bottle, like the label. Like, they said vodka on the outside of it.
Man, some Russian is coming in here and trying to do a snatch and grab. He just runs into the store with a black bag and starts scraping them off the shelves. It's a classic vodka up your blade. And I'm just trying to drink as much of his can. Like he's down on the floor with like a nipple on top of the vodka bottle, like sucking on it like a baby, and the museum people are coming over, smacking him on the head. Stop it, blade! You're drinking it. You know, that's how it works. But anyways, I can't get any numbers on how much America produces, interestingly enough. But one thing we can get is that the Russians, on a person-by-person basis, must be alcoholics. How many spirits, how many liters of spirits does an American drink per year? Let's see. 494 drinks per year. What the hell's measurement is that? Is that a liter? A gallon? What is that?
That's just drinks.
Let's see. So an average American drinks about 8.7 liters of pure alcohol per year. It's slightly above average, but you have to remember that's being compared to Russia's 20 liters per average per adult per year, which is
That's
well
really
above.
not that bad. That's not that bad at all.
You know, we're making the British look like white lightweights around here, only drinking 3 liters of spirits per year. You know, we're in America drinking 9. Dang.
Yeah, that's less than I thought. Really, I thought we were gonna be drinking like 50 or like 100 liters a year.
Yeah, but with it, I hope that answers the question the best we can. We can't find all the vodka distilleries, but they have 300 of them. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support and also supporting that live chat.
And we're activating the drinking in the chat. Looks like Carolyn Evans said, "I'm making my vodka right now. Y'all made me thirsty."
C. Faye said, "What's wrong with having a museum?" Well, there's nothing wrong with having a museum, but it kind of seems weird to have a nothing but vodka museum. That's like here in the South having a Bud Light museum or a Coors Light museum. You know, it's just like, it's kind of weird and shows that you maybe have a bit of a problem, you know? It's like, if you're having a museum like that, there may be a bit of a problem culturally. And you also have to remember, people almost only in Russia, on a normal basis, die from alcoholism. They drink themselves to death. And that doesn't really happen often in the rest of the world as much as it does in Russia. Russia looks at alcoholism like we do suicide in the United States in terms of how bad of a tragedy it is, because so many people die from alcoholism every single year in Russia. So it's really weird to have a vodka museum with that in mind. That actually on par would be like the United States having a suicide museum or something similar. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next we have a super chat from Daniel F., who puts in a $20 donation and says, please take a question from the chat and greetings from the island of Marstrand in Sweden. History nerd question mark. We have a cool fortress, Karlston.
And let me find this island. How's it spelled with 2 A's?
It's Marstrand, and it's just, 2 A's in Sweden.
Marstrand, Sweden. Little island near Gothenburg. And also, here is the Karlston's Festning. And I think that's the fortress he's talking about, right?
He said Karlston.
Yep, that's it. We found it. Hey, look at that. Wow, dang, that is a fort. They got a nice little tower in the center. Dang, look at that. I would hate to go up against that fort. I don't think you'd be shooting anyone inside of it. They got portholes. Well, not portholes. I forgot what they're called. Dang, it's
These guys are locked down like the Federal Reserve down the street in Birmingham.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. The Federal Reserve, we're not saying anything about y'all, but man, look, they even have a little chapel in here.
What, are you supposed to be scared of the Federal Reserve now?
Well, I mean, like, have you seen them lately? I mean,
yeah, they're still wrong as ever.
Have you seen how caked up the postal service is now? Like, if you commit mail fraud, they send they send an armed squad to your house if you commit mail fraud now. Like, everyone in the U.S. government now has got a bulletproof vest, a bulletproof helmet, and a whole bunch of M4s. I don't want to.
I've never heard being armed described as caked up. That's interesting.
Well, we're creating new terms here today, but I like this fort, and also it's got a very commanding view of the surrounding area, which is of course why they built the fort here. It's got a great view, and also prime real estate. I think a Walmart or a Dollar General could be built on this very fort. But I do thank you so much for the support and also being a Lee Spring Army member from the little island. And it's, wait, hang on. Marstrand is this island. It's not this little one where the fort's on. So let's drop down into his town, very small one. So we may actually be dropping on the street he lives on. I don't know. But let's see. It's really quaint. They still got cobbles. I like cobbled roads. It's bad for your suspension, but I like them. Let's go down here. Why does this remind me of Polseth in Cornwall?
It's the small little roads, I think.
Yeah, and this thing is hardly moving at all. What's this?
Muskeviken immemes slip.
Sleep. It's a banana peel. Sleep. And then you fall and break your bed. Anyways, I like this town. It's a really nice one. Is there anything else interesting in this town? Oh, Coop Marstrand. What is this? It's a grocery store. What does it look like? Vegetables. All right. Really clean.
Let's see. Can you do a Swedish accent? Hamburger. Can we get a little drink and a little hamburger?
I think that's Finnish. Säckjärven polka, that whole thing, and the verkas, like all the jokes that you always make.
The accent's very difficult to replicate.
Also,
what was that?
Fisk.
Aspero fisk.
In Sweden, instead of getting search and frisk, you get search and aspero fisk. Oh man, what is that, by the way? Since you are Swedish, can you explain to us what this is? Because it kind of looks to me like
looks like massive shrimp or something. Like,
yeah, jumbo.
I thought it was a lobster, but that's a big ass shrimp.
That has got to be bigger than the jumbo shrimp on the treadmill. This is the swole version of the jumbo shrimp on the treadmill right here.
What if this is like a picture from a laboratory or something like that? It's not a restaurant or a grocery store.
Well, I'm going to say, man, if it is, wait a minute. What if Fisker's cat food has this in it? That's why it's called Fisk.
Well, it'll be more expensive.
Maybe. But let's go. Ben and Jerry's. It's in Sweden. Interesting. I didn't know that. Also, look at that. Look at that boat. Dang, that's a giant sailboat.
Also, by the way, let's see here. Let's see. Somebody said, oh, that's right. C-Face said, tell your brother USA has a Jack Daniels museum. And we did know that, actually. I think it's in Kentucky.
Yeah, it's in Kentucky where the Jack Daniels distillery is. But here's the thing, though. That makes sense because this is the Jack Daniels company. They're trying to make a tourist attraction out of their distillery, so they attach a museum to it, like Hershey's. Hershey, Pennsylvania, where the Hershey chocolate factory is, has a Hershey museum. It makes sense because it's a company selling a product. but for there to just be a standalone museum not attached to any particular business about vodka is weird. You know, it's not really the same. And I see that you're like apparently not like with me on that, and I will just agree to disagree, I guess, you know, because that's at the end of the day what it'll be. But it's different that way. It's not a company making a museum to attract people to the site where they make the product and to also create brand identity. It's literally just a museum that's celebrating all vodkas in Russia and really just alcoholism in general, which is killing loads of people.
And also people were saying it's not Kentucky, it's Tennessee.
In Lynchburg, yeah, there we go. Anyways, it's a small. We'll correct it though. That is correct. It is in Tennessee. But very neat little town. Also, it's very quaint looking and just really pretty all around. So with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope we addressed that comment fairly well, and thank you for being a Lee Spring Army member all the way from Sweden. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running.
All right. Yes, and thanks very much for the support, Daniel. And let's see here real quick. We need to revisit Colleen Emsley's super chat. She says that she doesn't think you answered the last part of the question, which was, when do you think the Russians will attack again from Belarus?
I don't think they ever will. It seems that the Belarusians are still incredibly hesitant about it, and I think that's just hype that the mainstream news keeps on pushing around monthly, so that way they can get people watching. That's everyone involved. That's Fox, that's CNN, you know, and each one covers it in their own way. But I think that it's not going to ever happen, because every time the end of the month comes around, they're always talking about there's a buildup on the border and an invasion is likely going to happen soon, and it doesn't happen. Like y'all may have remembered that about a month ago, there were people saying, oh my God, the Russians are going to begin an attack in early January, right after the new year. There's going to be an attack coming from Belarus. That completely disappeared. We're not even hearing about a buildup on the border at all, and it's not happening. So I don't think it ever will happen. And also, sorry I didn't address that, Colleen, because I was so caught up on the cold weather up there and your sickness that I completely forgot that I was supposed to be down with the sickness and answering the actual question. So sorry about that, but thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from White Lightning 777, who says, do we know for sure that we're sending in the Bradley fighting vehicles? Technically speaking, are those light tanks?
They are light tanks in a way if you use them like one. So yes, I would say they're light tanks. They're also, their technical term is an infantry fighting vehicle, but who cares? It's a light tank for all intents and purposes. So yes. And also, can you reread the first part of that question again real quick, Matthew?
Do we know for sure that they're sending in Bradley fighting vehicles?
We don't know that for sure. That's something that's on the table right now. It seems to be talked about a bit, but it's not an actual plan in motion. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the question fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, CME 4PC, I misspoke when I said Tennessee earlier. I was thinking about this British comedian when I saw it, and for some reason I just said it that way. But I meant to say Tennessee. I about said it wrong again. But anyways, moving on to our next super chat, we have a $10 donation from Ray Kapoor, who says, Slava Ukraine and love from Bengaluru, India.
And Bengaluru, India.
Why do you sound like Baldwin Baker when you said that? Bengaluru, India.
We're in Bengaluru, India, and I'm going to shill out to appease whoever I'm talking to today. But let's check out Bengaluru Palace. What does this look like? Sheesh. Oh my God. Wow, this is nice.
Wow.
Dang. It looks like I would assume that this was made during British rule, during the British Raj or the East India Company, because it has some Victorian themes to it, like this part of the palace here. But holy moly, is this a nice building. Like, dang.
That is nice. I like that greenery going on the wall. Yeah. Whoa, my goodness. So it is barren as hell out there. There's no grass or anything beside it.
There's a little garden over here, but this looks like a parking lot. But dang, look at this. I mean, this is impressive.
Oh, wow. Man. That reminds me of that building that was in Hitman 3 that I ran a mission through.
Oh, get the hell out of here. Oh,
I think it actually is.
But man, this is over the top. What else do y'all have in let me make sure I get the name of this right. Bengaluru, India. So let's see what else y'all have, because that was already starting off really well. What about this? The Radha Krishna Temple. Dang, that thing's modern. Look at this. You see Bald and Bankrupt would come through and he would like BS his way through. So this is like a temple, yeah, where they worship gods and stuff. Pretty cool, you know. And that's it. But man, I mean, like, y'all got some pretty crazy stuff in this town. In this town, it looks like a metropolis, really. Where is
Yeah,
this
it's huge.
India? Bangalore. So it's really, really south. It's almost down towards Sri Lanka, nearly on the very southern tip of India, which I've never really heard much about. Everyone always talks about northern India, everything north of New Delhi, like up in the Kashmir area. That's usually where everyone goes when they go and make videos on YouTube about India. But what does this place look like down here? I'm really interested in this now. Let's drop down on Street View. Now let's see what one of the main avenues in this town looks like. So they blurred just about everything.
Very blurred.
Out. And also, this looks like it's under either a interstate or something. But pretty interesting.
Goodness gracious.
Dang, they blurred everything out. You can't even see it.
I wonder what they're blurring out.
I don't know. I guess it must be something with the privacy laws in India, and they're having to blur out certain things. But interesting. It looks like a pretty conventional Indian town. And they're supposedly on the up and up. Like, from what we hear economically, they're on the up and up. So it should be improving over the next few years. And of course, it's cool to know that there are Lee Spring Army members all the way from India. You know, because usually we always expect that there will be English-speaking viewers on this channel, like from Australia, New Zealand, Canada, America, because there's no real language barrier there. But it's really cool to always hear that there are viewers outside of English-speaking countries that also watch this channel, like our Japanese viewers, our Korean viewers, and our Indian viewers, among many others that watch this channel. And I thank you so much for finding this channel worthwhile to support, and also being a part of the Lee Spring Army all the way from Bengaluru, India. That's just crazy to think we have a viewer, any viewers from India, but that's super cool. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well, and also, long live the LSA. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, let's see here, it looks like Raj Kapoor said, looks like a slum.
Well, I mean, you know,
there's some people that come to the United States, like Alabama, and say it looks, you know, backwoods and stuff like that. It just depends on like where you're coming from.
I mean, to be honest though, we may have been in a bad part of town, you know, because there are nicer parts of every town, and we may have just ended up. And also, wait a minute, hang on. Let me give this a fair argument here. We did drop down on what appears to. Yeah, we dropped down under the interstate. If property values would be the lowest, it would be directly under the interstate. So that may be why it looked like a slum down there. It kind of did. But you have to also give a little bit of an argument that in some places here in the United States, it does look like a slum. Like, no one can say that the outskirts of Detroit doesn't look like a slum. So maybe we dropped down in the bad part. Also, wait, there's a fort here. Wow.
He says he's particularly talking about the area we looked at.
Oh yeah, but you know, it did look pretty rough. I'm sure there's nice places in this town though, because it's massive. There's got to be a nice place in here somewhere. But with that, we are
Try near the government buildings.
The government. Let's see. Where are the government buildings?
I don't know. There's a university over there on the left.
Oh, right here, Bangalore University. Isn't the Bangalore that, like, tube that we used on D-Day that we would shove her in the barbed wire and explode? Like, I think it is, actually, if I remember that correctly. I'll have to pull it up. Let's see. Interesting. I think this is like an agricultural university or like a community college or something like that. Anyways, with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support and being a part of the Lee Spring Army all the way from. It still blows me away that you're from India. And so with that, RE Dinosaur said Bengaluru is IT hub of India, like Silicon Valley. So is that
That's
kind
true,
of,
actually.
Is that kind of like Bollywood? Where's Bollywood? Because everyone's always talking about Bollywood.
Oh,
but
that's different. That's different.
yeah, but is that like a physical place, or is that just the amalgamation of Indian pop culture?
I think it's. I think there's like, it's like the whole of India. Like they create films everywhere, but there's like a specific place. I think.
Let's pull that up. Is Bollywood a place? Is Bollywood a real place? Bollywood is not a place. So it is. So it isn't. It's just an amalgamation of Indian pop culture. So with that,
I knew it. I knew it was from Hitman. Deej Miller said, "Yeah, it's from Hitman." I knew it looked familiar.
Also,
I wasn't playing around. I actually meant it.
And also, we need to get on to the next one. But thank you so much once again for the support.
All right. And also, John Tetriel said, closed caption option. Hello? There should be one already there. I don't think we can control it, but maybe the enforcer knows.
But control what?
The closed captioning?
On the speech from
On the
Zelenskyy?
stream?
No, we can't. We don't control that. We can't do anything about it.
Oh, yes. So that is that. But anyways, up next, we have a $20 super chat from Panama Floyd, who says, Uncle Luca is walking a tightrope. He knows that supporting the Russian effort will lead to a revolution in Belarus, and do y'all agree?
I do agree, and I think, and I've been saying that the entire time, it'll lead to a military coup and a mutiny, which will then destabilize the government because they don't have any muscle to back them up. And then if people start revolting, the military and the people will most likely overthrow the government and put something else in power, because those are the two driving factors that actually lead to some kind of a governmental change. So I would say that is most likely the reason why they haven't gotten involved in the war, and most likely why they will not be involved in the war. I also see that a lot of people are flaming me for not knowing that Bollywood was not a real location. I've just heard it forever. Everyone's always talking about, oh, Bollywood's really making huge strides. I'm like, is that like Hollywood? Because when you hear that, on the surface, you would think that that is a physical location, considering that it sounds just like Hollywood, and Hollywood's a real location. You would think that Bollywood would also be a real location in India. Apparently, everyone's saying that it's all the studios that everyone talks about that's called, I guess you could say, Bollywood is in Bombay. I don't know. But
I don't even know why they call it Bollywood. Like, is that a good thing or a bad thing to call it Bollywood?
I think it's a good thing. I think it's kind of like the Indian spin-off to Hollywood in their way. You know how like Hollywood's their own like film culture and everything. Bollywood's supposed to be the Indians' own form of their film culture and everything like that.
Huh.
But I gotta tell you, Matthew, honestly, I need some luck now on everything else that we're going to be saying for the rest of the night, because it seems as though I'm getting some things wrong. So with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat from Wubba, who says, water park tickets and cupcakes for everyone.
And thank you so much for the support, and I'm glad to hear that we got some water park tickets and some cupcakes. I kind of find it interesting to that cupcakes and water park tickets are given out hand in hand sometimes, but I guess I'm not one to judge. Maybe the Russian palate's kind of weird. They like swimming around in chlorinated water and eating cupcakes at the same time. Not really something I would do, but still, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and let me grab that bot real quick, and it's gone, Stugna. Up next, we have a $10 super chat from Sick Lid, who says, don't destroy the vodka factories. General Vodka is helping to win this war. And he puts in a champagne glass clinking, a whiskey glass, another champagne bottle opening, and a martini.
Dang. Someone needs to go to Alcoholics Anonymous after that. But I thank you so much for the support. And also, I would say not to touch them at all, because alcoholism is something that was destroying the Russians from the inside out. And I say let it go ahead and do it, because it can only help out Ukraine and help out the West as well. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Dino Ress, who says the F2 BK Mecha L47 gun fires the OE 105 F1 Heat T round, 390mm pen on RHAE, 1170 ms muzzle velocity, and 2.1 km range. No data on APFSDS rounds.
And you see, that's the one that matters, is the APFSDS, because no one really uses the Heat FS rounds much anymore, and I'm saying that as a bit of a misnomer because some people do due to budgetary reasons, but APFSDS is the go-to option nowadays for anti-armor. It's called a, APFSDS stands for Armor Piercing Fin Stabilized Discarding Sabo, and so it's entirely made for armor piercing, and Heat FS is as well. It's high explosive anti-tank fin stabilized, but it's not, I guess you could say, as capable as the APFSDS shells are, and that's why I would like to know the pen on the APFSDS, because the Heat FS alone can hardly get through the ERA blocks and through the composite armor with that kind of pen, so it would really all rely on the APFSDS to see if the AMX-10 RC would stand up against what it's going up against, I guess you could say. But one thing that is good to know about that Heat FS shell is that it has a range, I believe, of what he said, like, 2.25 of a kilometer?
2.1.
Yeah, 2.1 kilometers. That is actually a pretty decent distance for a Heat FS shell from a 105mm gun. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And moving on to our next one, we have a $7 super chat from Andrew J, who says, Enforcer met... I like about to say Matt, but Enforcer, who is the U.S. administration that is blocking ATACMS being sent to Ukraine? Is it General Mark Milley or someone else?
We can't really get into the politics of who's doing what here, because then that becomes a whole thing. And I don't want it to become a whole thing here on the channel where people battle out their political views from the United States in here and make this really a sideshow and make American politics the forefront. So unfortunately, we can't really go into who's blocking it. But it seems as though it's just being blocked by almost everyone. No one in particular, because from a United States standpoint, why would the Ukrainians need ATACMS? Because the only thing that adds, as far as the Ukrainians are concerned, in ability is to use an American weapon to strike deep into Russia. And then we could get directly involved in the war because the Russians could say that American weapons are being used to directly attack them, and therefore, by collateral, we're getting directly involved in a war against Russia's sovereignty, and then that becomes a whole deal. So that's kind of the reason why we're not seeing the ATACMS. In my opinion, the ATACMS are nice, but I don't think they're needed. The missiles that the HIMARS currently has a range of 50 miles, meaning that they can hit everything in occupied territory right now, and considering that the Ukrainians made an agreement that they will not attack outside of Ukraine's territory with the HIMARS, that means that, pretty much the HIMARS are meeting all of the requirements they need to right now, and giving them an ATACMS would be redundant. And so with that, I hope that does address the question fairly well. And thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one. But before we do, I believe Sally Lou said, are you talking about Lucknow, the capital of Uttar Pradesh, India? Do you guys like Indian food? Yes, I was talking about Lucknow and making a pun on the name, like we do every once in a while with some towns. We do that a lot in Alabama because there's some funny ones here. And also, Indian food, I've had some of. I really liked it whenever I had it. Like, I believe we had chicken curry before, and if I'm correct, that's Indian, although oddly enough, chicken tikka masala, which you would think is Indian, is actually a British food. It originated in Britain first, and then it made its way back to India, which is really weird when you think about it. But moving on.
You said curry?
Yes, we actually had a curry.
I thought that was from England.
Let me check. Where is curry from? If it's from Britain too, I'm gonna be like, what the hell? Yeah, it's from India.
I guess they just have a whole bunch of it in England, I guess.
And
it was everywhere.
And let me check to make sure that chicken tikka masala is from South Asia. So I was actually wrong with that too. What the hell? Like, someone told me a while ago that chicken tikka masala originated in Britain and then went back to India. And it actually originated in... Okay, so that was completely wrong. Wait a minute. While many people assume the dish originated in India, the most popular origin story places its roots in Scotland when the Bengali chef had to improvise in a jiffy. I have not heard that word in a century. Today, many consider it to be the national dish of the United Kingdom. So, in a way, it seems as though the origin story is a little mixed. It says South Asia at the start, and then it says Scotland afterwards. So, I don't know. It's up to you whether it's from India or Scotland. Either one. But still... have had, I guess you could say, Indian food. I found it to be really good, pretty spicy. By the way, Matthew, you're breathing into the mic. And all in all, I thought it was really good. I liked it, and I think it's pretty good, delicious, spicy food. And I like some delicious, spicy food. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a $7 super chat from Jonathan Toe, who says, "Thank you all for your hard work to this point. In question, is France, let's see, if France will send their AMX, should the USA send strikers?"
If the French send the AMX, we could send the striker. I think we're trying to get rid of the strikers right now, if I'm correct. I think we're either retiring them or they have been retired. And so that would be a good opportunity to go and just dump them all into Ukraine and let them get some use out of them before their lifespans are completely wrecked. So I would say yes. If the French are sending the AMX-10, the M1-128 striker is very comparable, and that should be sent as well. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Jay Byrne, who does not leave a comment, but thank you very much, Jay Byrne, for the support, and thank you for being around for a very long time as well. And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Sergeant GG, who says, "Hi, I'm French from Saint Etienne. I have only one thing to say this night. 105 millimeters of democracy. Ukrainians, tankists will love them. AMX-10 RC for the win."
And I thank you so much for the support, and the AMX-10 RC is pretty cool. And I think that I put a lot of faith in the AMX-10 RC to be a very competent vehicle. And so with that, I got to thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the only thing you had to say tonight, and the only thing. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running.
Indeed. And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Rado Kudre, who says, "You guys are awesome as always." And thank you, Rado.
And thank you, Rado. And I believe you are as awesome as always. A lot of you all are incredibly awesome as always. Like, hell, let me go through and let me read off the legends, Matthew, that I can just see in the live chat right here. Ubercon, Alabama Cajun, Jerry S, Mystic 77, can't miss them. They were right at the top. Paddington, Robertson 644, Sean, Steve Lewis, William Thompson, Sicklid, Indy Andy, Alabama Cajun, again, Jerry S. I mean, like, there's nothing but legends in here tonight, and y'all are awesome because I love that y'all actually enjoy this channel enough to watch it nightly, so that way I can remember y'all's names. And so with
Indeed.
that,
And also Alabama Cajun.
yeah, just in case we didn't mention him 3 times already. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. Y'all are really the awesome ones. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Margaret Hemsley, who says, "So many similarities between this war and Winter War with Russian troops. No proper clothes, low morale, and shot if they deserted, etc. Haven't learned."
Well, it appears that they don't just get shot anymore for getting deserted. They get bayoneted in a very interesting way. But moving on from that, I would say that it does have a lot of similarities to the Winter War. We actually brought up that comparison a lot at the start of this war in February and March. And then during the summer, that kind of subsided because it was summer, it wasn't winter anymore like the Winter War. And now that we've entered the winter again, it's just like the Winter War. The entire concept of this war is almost just like it, except for this has lasted much longer. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And thank you so much for being a Lee Spring Army soldier. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support.
All right. And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Dino Ress once again, who says, "Found it. OFL 105 F3 APF SDS, 1400 meters a second, 1.8 kilometer effective range, tungsten alloy penetrator, 360 millimeter of RHA EQ, non-NATO ammunition."
Only 370?
360.
360, that's it?
I mean, I guess.
I find that to be a little hard pressed though, because if it's only doing 360, it's hardly doing better than Heat FS, and from what we know, APFSDS way outperforms Heat FS. But if that is the number, I guess that is, and that's kind of a little underwhelming, honestly. It does less penetration than an SPG-9 can with some of the more advanced recoilless rounds that it can use. But with that, I do thank you for the support and also providing that information. Hopefully, it's not true, and hopefully it gets a little bit more pen than that, because if it only gets that much, I would actually be a little concerned about that thing being used to fight against tanks. But with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support.
All right. And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Craig Platel, who says, "As far as I know, Iraq was initially issued 140 M1A1s, 100 were destroyed out of operation or captured. A further sale of 170 has been approved.
And let me check real quick. How many Abrams have been destroyed in Iraq? Total of 23 Abrams. We're not talking about us. Obviously, we're not losing a lot of them. I'm talking about Iraq. Dang it. How many Abrams have the Iraqis lost? I spelled Iraqis so wrong. Dang. How many Abrams have been lost in general? How many Abrams have been destroyed? Dang, you're just gonna keep giving me the same freaking number. Dang, come on. Get with the program. So let's see, Iraqi Army Service. Here we go. Supplied 140 during 3 months. About 1/3 of had been damaged or destroyed. By December, the Iraqis only had 40 of operational tanks left out of their original 140. That month, the Department of State approved the sale of another 175 to Iraq. Let's see here. Transported battle muzzles. Not know whether these tanks were captured by ISIS. The one that been nicknamed the Beast after it became the lone working tank when it was when taking back the town of Hit in April 2016. What a name for a town, Hit. You're fighting in the Battle of Hit. Like that's an interesting name. Destroying enemy Abrams were used. So it appears that the Abrams under Iraqi service had an attrition rate per year of nearly 30%. So they lost about 100 of them total, whether it was completely destroyed or taken out of action due to mechanical breakdowns. About 100 of them ended up getting damaged beyond repair or destroyed. So pretty interesting to see that the Iraqis had a pretty bad time with it. And once again, that furthers back the point, although it's not as high as I actually thought. For some reason, I remember reading the number was much higher. But still, 100 of them being destroyed, and apparently one of them being captured by someone, and there was proof of it. If there was anything that was sensitive about the Abrams that was in that tank, it would have been found out at that point. Also, I just gotta say, the Abrams look so cool, like in every picture. It's just a cool looking tank.
I love it.
And so with that, I thank you so much for clarifying that. And I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And thank you so much once again for the support. And I hope we address that. And with that, we are on to the next one, dagnabbit.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Roll Tide, who says, Moo moo, baba, squeak, roar, roll tide. Texas does not suck. Meow meow.
And I have a friend that would disagree with you. He came out of Space Force Basic, and he said that he didn't like Texas. And I was the first person I ever heard that in my actual friend group from school that said they didn't like Texas. I was like, oh, what? I was like, there's a whole battle going on my stream over that. But still, thank you so much for the support. And I cannot pick politics on here, so I cannot say Roll Tide. But thank you so much once again. And just make sure we touch them all. Roll Tide, War Eagle, go Lakers, go the hockey team. I want to thank Eastern Airlines. I want to thank Eastern Airlines Flight Attendant Services. I would also like to thank the U.S. Postal Service, branch number 1179. I would also like to thank the Merchant Marine. I would also like to thank the hotel staff at the Drury Inn, the guys down there who keep the steel plant running in Birmingham, and also those fellows down in the frat. I've never been to frat, but Alpha Flight Kappa. Anyways, with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
All right. And after that nice listing of people there, up next we have a $5 donation from Greaser Bub, the original, who says, Enforcer, are you worried about the massive worldwide shortage of 155mm artillery ammo and other ammo and spare parts for Western systems?
Nah, man. Then we just pump out more. Like, the budgets are not a concern for the United States. We'll just pump them out like no tomorrow. And also, as a bit of a benefit, it provides jobs to the people who work in those ammunition plants, and they make a little bit of money. They spend it a little. Some more people make a little bit more money. They spend it a little. So it will create more jobs in the United States. We'll pump them out. We didn't lose anything. I remember in the first month of the war in Ukraine, people said, oh my God, America's going to run out of Javelin missiles. Oh my God, we're going to be completely out of them. Like, we just can't make more. And we can always make more of everything. So not a concern at all to me. So with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well. And I thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Navy Chino, who says, Enforcer and Enforcer Matt, hi from France, Pila Dune near Arcachon. Pick a question from the live chat and LSA.
Let me guess. That was spelled P-I-L-A Pash.
P-I-L-A Dune.
Oh, I was all wrong. So P-I...
No, it's 2 words. Pila Dune.
Let's see, Pila Dune. Dune of... Pila?
It says near Arcachon.
How do you spell that? Because I know you butchered it.
A-R-C-A-C-H-O-N.
Oh! Let's see here.
Arcachon.
So what's the name again?
Pila Dune.
Let's see.
Plague de la
Man, you're butchering that so badly. I just don't. Like, I just know it down.
Where's another one? Where's another one? Let's see.
Let's see.
Decathlon La Teste de Bouche.
Enter Marche Hyper La Teste de Bouche et Drive.
Le Quartier de la Ville de Ivre.
Wait a minute, hang on. Let me do this right. The top 1% of this country butchers half of this country's words. We're gonna go to Port de la Teste de Bouche. Oh man, I think the best we can do is drop down in this town because I can't find the other one. I don't even know how to spell
Also,
it.
Misk77, tell him it's RC.
Tell him it's RC.
I thought maybe you knew what that meant.
I don't know what that means, man. I'm scared.
Misk, we aren't sure what you mean.
Oh, but look, it's so quaint.
It is quaint. I bet it's very expensive too for this quaintness.
It's so nice. Let's look. Houses for sale in Archon, France. MyFrenchHouse.com. How much is it for sale for? Holy moly! Oh,
there's
my
a wooden
God.
shed. How much is that? The wooden shed down below? The next one down?
This one?
It's a million.
945,000 euros. That's like 1.1 million US dollars.
Oh, it's actually a very nice shed, actually.
It's pretty nice, actually. Oh man, these houses. I feel like these have got to be the most high-end houses in town, though. Like none of them look normal. Let's go to Realtor.com. Yeah, see.
Oh, Miss77 said, really, OMG, the RC joke he got you on earlier.
Holy
Dang.
moly! That 924,000 Australian dollars. Let's see, that would be like 700,000 US dollars, I believe, for 63.
Why is it in Australian?
I don't know.
I mean, you can't be poor and live in Arachin or Cashin.
It's Arashon, most likely, man. We don't want to have Kazakhstan repeating itself 90 times. But look, it's almost $725,000 most likely for 63 square meters. How big is that? 63 square meters to square feet. 700 square feet ish for nearly $725,000.
That is nuts.
That's
it better be gold plated for that.
Man, here in America, that would be exorbitantly priced. I mean, like, hell, you'd be living in like San Francisco or somewhere like that to get up to those prices. That's just, man, that's wild. Man, you must have a yacht or something if you're living in Arachon, France. But with that, I got to thank you so much once again for the support and helping us keep this thing running. And also, really cool to hear from our Lee Spring Army Division in France.
Wait, go back down. There's a McDonald's in it.
Macca's?
Go back down. Yeah, I see McDonald's just that right there.
I don't know where right there is.
That big old yellow dot with the fork and knife on it.
Macca's! What does it look like? Oh, God. Oh, that's terrifying.
Man, that Big Mac right there looks juicy. What's wrong with that Big Mac in that picture?
Why did it turn to the SpongeBob hamburger, you know, where he's going, you know, doing all that stuff?
Starts like zooming out into the blackness.
Oh, man. Yeah, it starts zooming in from the black. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Wow. Sans sucre. I know I'm butchering that. I'm so sorry. But man, like this little McDonald's.
Sans suckers.
Oh, get the hell out of here, man! You stop that. Quit it. What other?
They have macaroons there.
Oh yeah, they had that everywhere. They had that in Rome. Let's see. What is Mason Kennedy or Mason Kennedy? I don't know. Let's see here.
Ah, artisan
Oh.
patisserie.
Oh my God, man.
Boy, this actually looks good.
It's probably like patissier or something like that. It's probably pronounced that way. I don't know.
Patissier boulanger.
That's it. When you use certain kinds of medicines, you patissier boulanger.
Oh, goodness.
But anyways, I'm sorry. We don't know how to speak French or even pronounce French at all. It's a neat language, though, and it's always cool to listen to people's sushis and company.
Sushis.
Wow, these things actually look kind of nice.
I do actually. But they have macaroons at the sushi shop.
They got mochi.
Oh, that's mochi?
Yeah.
Oh, it look like a macaroon from the top.
Oh, well, maybe it is, actually. I don't know. It looks round, though. Man, I got some nice stuff in France. Also, y'all are right near the big old town of Bordeaux, which is a really massive town in France. And also, there was a ship named after Bordeaux that burned and sank in New York's harbor. But still, it was a big one. Anyways, with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support.
Oh, and also Timothy Walker, we did know about the macaroons at Aldi's. That's where we used to get them from. Like they're really like affordable. Like the macaroons are usually very expensive if you get them anywhere else, but those Aldi's ones are like reasonably priced and they're good. But I got burnt out on them pretty quick because they were all the same flavor. You remember those?
I do remember them, and they always, once you open up the pack, after a day and a half of sitting in the freezer, they always started to taste like mold for some reason. It was just really weird. You know, you had to eat them fresh or not eat them at all. Also, just in case y'all want to know about some good, delicious Southern culture, our mother today just cooked up some beignets, and they were delicious. I love them beignets. Matthew, I ate that beignets with that filet mignon. I'll tell you what, man, it was delicious. Anyways, it's a beignet and a filet mignon. We're on to the next one.
Somebody said it's Macron. No, that's the president.
President Macron eats a macaron.
Oh, goodness. But anyways, let's see here. Oh, yes, indeed, Carolyn Evans. Aldi is my jam. But anyways, up next we have a $5 super chat from Honeybee Care, who says, Shine Fund guys. War over by midsummer. How much of Ukraine are the orcs keeping? Or you think the UN pushing them out?
I think that the UN won't be pushing them out because there's a Security Council thing and Russia's on it, and they can't get kicked off. I think the Ukrainians will most likely push them out, and I do think it'll most likely occur by midsummer. If it doesn't, I'll be pretty interested to see what will be happening from there. But I do thank you so much for the support. Hopefully this thing will be over by summer, not supper, and Slava Ukraini. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have an $11.11 donation, 1111, from Videshi Baba, who says, I've been here since day 88. I'm into planes. Would you check out the Air Force museums in Ohio and Moscow for a comparison? And also, Videshi, let me know your favorite military aircraft of all time. Mine is the SR-71.
My favorite military aircraft of all time is I believe it was the F-15. Yeah, it is the F-15. But wow, look at that little piece.
Oh, they have a Nighthawk in this museum?
Oh, hell yeah, man. They got the F-117
wow.
right here. And look, they got a MiG-29. Oh, delish. Also, it looks like that's the wing of Air Force One, if I'm not correct. The Boeing 707 that Kennedy probably was put on after, he opened his mind to the world in Dallas. But we won't go into that. That's something for...
We need to go to this museum. Where's this located?
This is in Ohio.
Oh, down in Ohio.
Down in Ohio. Oh, buddy. Oh, look, here's the space capsule. Pretty deep. Also... Oh, it's the Avrojet thing. It's the Avro... Oh, I forgot. I think it's the Avro car. Let me check. Yeah, it's the Avro car. It's that thing that hovered, Matthew.
I wonder how much they would sell that for.
I don't know, but there's Air Force One. Wow, dang, man. This is... I think this is outdoing the one in Washington. Like the Uber Center.
Definitely.
They also have like the precursor to the C5 Galaxy right here. Pretty cool. I forgot what this thing's called. It's like a Super Guppy or something like that. And then they have a space shuttle. I think that's the it's a mock-up. It's
a fake.
Yeah, it's a fake. Then they have the XB-70 Valkyrie.
Oh,
No
wow.
way! There's like only one of these in the world, and I think that's the one. Let me check real quick, though. Yeah, one of them was destroyed in a test flight, so this is the only one left, and that's what it actually looks like if you can see the whole thing.
That's actually pretty cool looking.
Yeah, it is, and a lot of what they learned making this prototype went into the B-1 Lancer project. But still, this thing is really interesting, really neat plane. And there it is right there. That's the only one left in the whole world. They also have an A-10, a B-24 Liberator. They have the B-10.
What's the name on the side of that plane back there? Did you see that?
Man. They
had a sense of humor.
Man, you know, I'd be going to the strawberry field and I'd be picking bitches. I guess that's what it means. I don't know. But anyways, they got a B-10 Martin, they're super cool. Let me show you all this. B-10 Martin.
And also Roberson, let's see, Roberson 644 said it looks like the Concorde. That's what I was thinking too. Also, Carolyn said that as well.
Yeah, it kind of does. Also, this is the B-10 Martin. This is the bomber we had before the B-17 bomber. And they have one. These things are actually quite rare. So that's pretty cool. How many of these were built? Let's see. 348, including the 182 export version. So we really only had like 100 and something of these things. And I think, wait a minute. This thing flew. Oh man, Matthew. This thing's picture was taken flying out of Maxwell Air Force Base.
Really? In what year?
Probably back in the 30s, because this thing was introduced into service in the 30s.
Man, probably when Montgomery was decent.
I don't know. It's really. Anyways, we're moving on from that. We're not gonna stick around on that one. Also, they have a neat little stained glass window. Oh my God! These people got everything, don't they?
That looked like a Bayraktar on the stained glass window. Did you see that?
Bayraktar. I don't see
down there in the bottom left.
I mean, maybe that looks more like a Lancaster to me, but maybe.
Well, I wanted to look like one, but it didn't.
Oh my gosh, I would die if I could go to this museum. This is an amazing one. B-36. Oh my God! Wow, this really has everything.
Can't you believe somebody got offended over saying how much was the Avro car, like how much they would sell that for? Somebody got offended over that.
Really? What did they say?
Disrespectful.
Oh, God. Oh, look, it's an F-4B. Pretty cool. A C-47 Skytrain. Pretty neat. Disrespectful. That makes no sense. How the hell is that disrespectful?
Yeah, seriously. Like we're offending like a person or something. Like, how much would you sell that Avro car for? Disrespectful.
Oh, man. Also, they have a gunship. I think everyone in America has a gunship somewhere at the museum. Like, I think I've never been to a museum without an AC-130 gunship. But, man, what a museum. This thing is over the top. Now, let's go to the one in Moscow. So, the Air Museum... Moscow. But a Moscows. So, let's see here. Let's go over here. Let's go over here. Let's go over here. There's Moscow. Central Armed Forces Museum. This isn't really an Air Force museum, but it's a little bit of everything.
Oh, goodness.
What? Oh, goodness, what?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. Let's see here. Oh, we got a little museum. Why in the world does this look like a North Korean museum? Like they're about to say, the little ship sank a ship 10,000 times its size. Why in the world does it look like they're about to say that here? Oh, KB2. Lame.
You know they actually have a toilet museum here?
Oh, I know, yeah. The MS-1! Look, they're going to pull this thing out of the museum soon and start using that in Ukraine. I'm sure it's soon. Trademark. Also, they have an armored train. Kind of lame. They'll probably use that in Ukraine. Actually, they have used one of those in Ukraine sometime around. I forgot when. It's like 6 months ago near Melitopol. Kind of lame museum. Also, look how poorly maintained all of their outside exhibits are. Like, they're just letting stuff rot out here. Let's go to another one. I'm sure there's one. Central House Museum of Aviation and Space. Ooh, damn. Oh, I don't mean to cuss much, but this is terrible.
What was that? You see that mannequin? What the hell is it standing like?
Man, that thing's raised up. Sin City wasn't made for you. But anyways,
He's striking a pose right there.
Also, what time... That is the Baron. That is their illustration of the Baron. They couldn't have made a worse one of the Baron than that. That looks terrible. Wow, that's a terrible museum. I'll tell you that. Let's see. Let's go to another one. The Museum of Cosmonautics. Okay, that one's got a neat design. I'll give it that. But, okay, once again, scale models. We got a man T-posing here. Neat. They got some rovers. I think that's the one that went to Venus and melted in 3 minutes. The Cosmonautics Museum is a step up. But I still... Oh, no. Not poor Leica.
Oh, I thought it was stuff. It is stuff. I was about to say, is that real?
Yeah, it is real. Yeah, it's real. Yeah. It's real. Yeah. Oh, look, America is so good. We beasted on them so bad they built a mock model of the Saturn V in their own museum.
Yeah, what is that junk on the wall behind it?
It says Saturn back there. It says, oh, it's supposed to be a map of the solar system, I guess, but in a really stupid looking way.
Yeah, it's really weird looking.
Yeah, that's really weird. Oh, look. Look, it's that picture of that Russian guy holding up the dogs. Look at that. Cool. Why does that look so
I could make a really bad
cheesy?
joke right now, but I'll let it go.
Oh, and I think if it's the one I'm thinking of, no. Don't do it. Don't do it, man. But, oh, look, we beasted on them again so bad they had to put a space shuttle model in the museum, too. You know, that's funny. Whenever people sit there and they have to put American stuff in the museum, I always find that hilarious, especially for the Russians, considering they hate us so. Now they have a little, it's an okay museum. It's
If only their war game was on point with their model game, then they'd be set.
Yes. Now it's time to go to the last one, the Victory Museum.
They got called this the losing museum now.
The Losers Museum. Oh man, this was made during Soviet times, so you can see all that Soviet stuff, that crap. Also, I love how in the middle of this town, you know, there's like little firefighter stuff. I'm guessing this is probably like Stalingrad, maybe. There's just civilians walking out of this bridge underpass, and there's a giant AA gun just going to fire right over them, I guess. And then they made a mock-up of the Reichstag. And what else did they have in this museum? Wow, they really put a lot of money into some of them, but some of the other ones were completely underfunded. Also, there's a picture of all of the soldiers marching off to their death for the Battle of Moscow. They got an MG42. I shot one of those. Man, they actually put a lot of extra money into this after the Soviet Union fell, because some of this is new. You can tell. But with that, I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And I thank you so much for the support. I hope you enjoyed looking at the museums in Russia and the one in Ohio, because the one in Ohio, oddly enough, way outdoes anything in the capital city of Moscow. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running.
All right. And up next, we have a $4 super chat from Ben, who says, are you able to make adjustments to your study schedule if this war continues for another 18 months? I hope you will continue giving us the news.
Yes, I did make a commitment that this will continue every single day, and it will. Even if I do enter law school, I'll be making sure to keep this up. At that point, though, I'm not sure if it will be every single day. I might have to cut another day off. I'm not really sure. I'll just have to see when I get to it. But I will be still covering this war, yes. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a $2 super chat from Dupper Bob, who does not leave a comment. But as always, Dupper Bob, thank you very much for your support. And also, thank you to Dubsy Dabster, too, for putting in a 2. We appreciate you both very much every single night for throwing in that very consistent $2 support. And it means a lot to us. And thank you both very much. And up next, we have a $2 donation from Ukraine Enjoyer, not to be confused with NATO Enjoyer, who says, I appreciate what you do, Enforcer Matt, and also Enforcer for Ukraine.
Now, I appreciate what you were doing with your support to help this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for a viewer like you, we wouldn't be able to keep this thing running. And so thank you so much for helping to support this channel, so that way we can keep on covering the news for everyone to enjoy. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope we addressed that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and that was the last of our super chats for now, so we're moving on to our live chat questions. And first up, we must address the Morse, which was solved tonight by JP's RCs, Mark Hodges, Steve Fay, and WF2U. They say, Enforcer and Enforcer Matt, the Morse code says, the score right now is Ukraine 2, Russia 0, ... Slava Ukraini.
Ding, 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 ding. Y'all got it correct. Every single one of y'all got the Morse code correct again. for the 316th day in a row. And so I got to thank you all so much once again for getting that right and always deciphering the Morse code. The Ukrainians are now 2 ammunition depots destroyed with loads killed, and the Russians haven't gotten a single one. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And also, we are going to be answering questions for the next 10 minutes. And then we'll be rounding out tonight's stream. So with that, on to the next one.
All right, and the next one is going to go to Hardwater, who says, did you guys hear about France delivering 6-wheel armor?
Yes, we did. We actually covered the AMX-10 RCs tonight, and that's exactly what you're talking about. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and the next one is going to go to Billy McGee, who says, what are your thoughts on the effectiveness of sanctions, as well as how they will affect the average person over the next couple of years?
They've been somewhat effective. We've seen that some companies have found ways to circumvent, I guess you could say, the restrictions that have been put on them by the sanctions. So they've been somewhat effective. I believe that we should start to take action against the companies that are still trying to conduct business in Russia, considering that we've sanctioned them and they shouldn't be conducting anything there, but they still are. So I would say, kind of effective, and I think it'll be affecting Russian citizens over the next few years, where if we do double down and make sure that these companies actually leave, they will start to see less and less consumer goods, and the quality of life will start to drop a little bit. Probably a small amount to moderately, light moderate. It's not going to be like a heavy drop, but it will be a drop. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question fairly well. We're on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a question from Humberto Jose, who says, is there any possibility that all previous massive missile attacks on Ukraine in the previous weeks was just testing Ukraine's air defense before the second invasion sometime this year?
I don't think so, because we've seen many missile attacks like these over over the entire war, and they've never really led up to anything. It's always just in reprisal for something, trying to make a message about someone being there that they don't want to have in Ukraine, or something similar. So I would have to be honest and say, no, I don't think it's going to be tied to anything in the future like attacks and offensives, because they usually never are. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Glenn Carter, who says, Enforcer and Enforcer Matt, do you, let's see here. I think I meant to say, do you think the Russian admission of, wait a minute, hold on, let me try to decipher this one real quick. Do you think the Russian admission of mistakes in reference to the school attack is a sign of a possible escalation in the war?
I don't think that's a possible sign of escalation in the war. I think that incompetence was just so bad that there was no way for them to hide it, and so they had to come out and admit to it, but they tried to fudge the numbers a little bit and make it a little bit lower than usual. So in that regard, I would say not really. I don't really view it as an escalation, considering that these things have happened before. It's just that it was the first time this had happened recently. So, not really, but it was a big deal. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and now we have a question from Raj Kapoor, who put in a super chat and said, also put in a super chat, I meant to say. I think I did, but I was trying to read the chat, by the way, so I got mixed up. But Raj says, Enforcer, which NATO weapon outside of HIMARS has the most impact in the special military operation?
The weapon that has the most impact would probably be the M777 beyond the HIMARS. That frontline artillery right there is very effective. I would also say the Caesar SPG falls in the same category. It is incredibly accurate for its range. It can cover a pretty decent amount of ground, and its shoot and scoot ability is pretty decent. And so I would say that is making the most impact, because while infantry equipment is good, artillery is usually the winning factor in most battles and wars, and especially right now with the front lines largely being stagnant and a lot of these battles becoming artillery ones. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Super Action General, who says, are y'all keeping up with the situation in Kosovo recently?
We were keeping up with the situation a while ago about the license plates, but beyond that, we haven't really been keeping up a lot on it, because Ukraine is of course the focal point of the stream. And back in the day when I started to try and bring that up as a side note on the streams, it seemed as though a lot of people just wanted it to be Ukraine war news only. I could probably try and make some videos on it, but of course, I've kind of gotten to the point again where videos are a little hard to make. So we'll see. But with that, I hope that does answer the question fairly well, and we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Dark Warrior, who says, what do you think it'll take for Putin's circle to finally have enough and assassinate him?
I think if the people start to revolt and the military starts to lose favor and begin to mutiny heavily, I think that's when we'll see that someone tries to turn against him and actually have him overthrown, because all the pieces would be in place for that to happen. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And the next question goes to Robert Gerstner, who says, how about if Turkey picks a side instead of playing both sides for cash?
Well, Turkey has picked a side. It's picked the Ukrainian side. However, every once in a while they'll do something that they believe is in their interest, which I guess is being taken as being pro-Russian. But like I always say, Turkey does what Turkey does. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, and it doesn't really line up with what NATO wants. It's just really what Turkey wants, which most of the time doesn't really make much sense. So I would agree with that in a way. I would say that Turkey needs to stop doing Turkey stuff and just do NATO stuff and actually work with us for a bit. But they're not necessarily being pro-Russian. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
And also, Enforcer, are you over there like cupping your hand or something when you're talking?
I'm trying to rub my eyes because one of them is really itchy, and I guess you're hearing that on the microphone.
Yes, it sounds weird. It sounds like you're in a wind tunnel. But anyways, up next we have a question from Commander COVID-19, who says, have you seen the popular Front YouTube video on Russian partisans fighting against Putin?
I think I may have at a point. I think we may have also shown that on stream, but I can't really remember. So unfortunately, I'll have to declare ignorance on that one, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next we have a question from JJ, who says, we really haven't seen too many Bayraktar footage since the beginning of the war. I guess they are running out of targets, question mark?
They are not running out of targets. They are being used. It's just that they are now state secrets. So the Ukrainians don't put out a lot of videos of them. And whenever they do them in a large chunk. So they are being used. They're probably hitting a decent amount of targets. It's just that we don't get to hear about it or see much about it at all. And so with that, I hope that answers that question fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next we have a question from SG, who says, have you seen the footage of the Russian soldier hitting tank ammo to repair its tracks?
Yes, we actually showed that on stream. I think it was like 2 days ago or so, and he was slamming a 152mm shell right into a track pin trying to put it back in. Really stupid, in my opinion, considering it's a high explosive shell. But hey, I'm not going to stop him. Hopefully he'll blow up. And so with that, I hope that answers the question, and we are on to the next one.
And we have a question from Frequency Harmonic, who says, if another attack comes from Belarus, do you think the West will start to destabilize the country to draw forces back from Ukraine to protect the Lukashenko regime?
I think they most likely will, because if Lukashenko's little, I guess you could say fragile government begins to collapse, they're going to have to do something to try and stop that or protect it, and the only way they can do that is to bring in the Russian military and try and put down the rioters and rebels and also the dissenters in the Belarusian government. So I would say yes, it will most likely pull manpower off the Ukrainian lines or a lot of logistics forces out of the war to go and try and become frontline units in Belarus and put those people down. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next we have a question from Mad Machine, who says, have the orcs reached their breaking point yet, or will they soon?
I think it's going to be soon. It seems as though they keep on pushing what the breaking point really is. So I think it'll be soon, but it won't be immediately, and they haven't passed it apparently yet. But I feel like they're fairly close to getting there. And so with that, I hope that answers the question, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next we have a question from Cyber Geek, who says, Enforcer, have you guys heard about France giving tanks to Ukraine and about Rogozin sending the chunk of shrapnel from his back to Macron?
And I have not heard about Rogozin sending the chunk of shrapnel to Macron. That's actually kind of crazy and really metal to hear. And also we do know about the French sending the AMX-10 RCs. We actually covered that in tonight's news. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for asking a pretty good question. I hope we answered it fairly well. And we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is David Molinarolo. Sorry, David. That's a very, very cool last name, but very difficult for me to get right, as you can tell. But David says, what are both of your thoughts on Scott Ritter and Colonel Douglas McGregor of their take on the war? They both seem to be getting all their info from Russian news and propaganda sources.
Let me pull up Scott Ritter. Scott Ryder, I'm guessing.
Ritter. Rit.
All right, so apparently that's a Ritter. This guy's Ritter. Let's see here.
What does he do exactly?
Well, it looks like he was convicted of sex offenses in 2011.
Oh.
And he also resigned from being a member of the UN ESCOM over disarmament of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. And then he became a critic of the Iraq War. So let's go down here. Let's go down here. I'm sure he's got latest statements in Iraq. Opinion of Iran, Russian invasion. Ritter rejects Western media's coverage of the Russian invasion of Ukraine and voices perspectives on multiple podcasts, including Andrew Napolitano's. Ritter was suspended on Twitter for violating its rule on harassment and abuse after he posted a tweet claiming that the National Police of Ukraine is responsible for the Bucha massacre. Oh, well, this guy's just an idiot.
Oh, goodness.
You know, this guy is just a straight-up idiot. So we've already gotten that one open and shut, case closed. So what's the other guy?
The other one is Colonel Douglas McGregor.
Colonel Douglas McGregor. Let's check this guy out right here.
PhD, by the way. Call him doctor.
Yes, we'll call him doctor. All right, doctor. What's your opinion on the invasion of Ukraine? Oh well, he's already starting off on a good note in 2014 by showing up on RT, and yeah, that's great. So let's go to 2022.
Oh, goodness. Sounds like he's also got some issues with Jewish people as well.
Wait, where's that?
On Jews, the section that says on Jews.
Let's see.
Right down there at the bottom.
Oh. We have a huge problem. Huh. But let's go to 2022 here. That's a whole other thing that we're not going to cover here. But after Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, McGregor appeared on 3 Fox News programs in February and early March to speak in support of Russia's actions. 3 days after the war began, he said the battles in eastern Ukraine is really almost over. If Ukraine don't surrender in the next 24 hours, I suspect Russia will annihilate them completely. McGregor said he believed Russia should be allowed to seize whatever parts of Ukraine it wanted. In his second appearance, he revised his prediction. The first 5 days, Russian forces, I think, frankly, were too gentle. They've now corrected that. So I'd say another 10 days, this should be completely over. I think the most heroic thing he could do right now is to come to terms with reality, neutralize Ukraine. After one of his appearances, McGregor comments were characterized by veteran Fox News Pentagon correspondent Jennifer Griffin as distorting and appeasement, and that he was being an apologist for Putin. After Griffin's remarks, that guy, who hosted McGregor on 2 successive nights, remarked, unlike many of the so-called reporters you see on television, he is not acting secretly as a flag for a guy at the Pentagon. No, Doug McGregor is an honest man.
Both of these guys seem like nutcases. Scott Ritter and also this McGregor fellow.
Also, another Fox News. Who's this guy? I've never heard of this guy. Another Fox News host who interviewed
I know who that
McGregor
is.
said his viewpoint was stunning and disappointing. And then he went back on RTE and shilled for them. And also, in a 4th appearance in early March, McGregor said a ceasefire was close as Ukrainian forces have been grounded to bits. There is no question about that, despite what we report on our mainstream media. I wonder how that comment's aged, considering we're only 2 months away from the march that is a year later after this march. I wonder how that aged, this honest man with all of his all-knowing wisdom. He also defended Russia's invasion in an interview on the Gray Zone, saying Putin had taken great care of civilians. Wow, that really aged well as well. And this was delaying his victory. Wow, that all really worked well. Jeez, man, this guy's an idiot. The war, with the exception of Kharkiv and Odessa, as far as the Russians are concerned, is largely over. There is no intention to do anything else because the Russians don't have a very large army. Are you shitting me? Like, they have 1 million... whatever. This nonsense that Putin wants to conquer all of Ukraine was never true. But he's just said in February that he was going to take all of it. And all he did in the Minsk agreement was ask that Russian speakers... let's see, in September 2022, he began predicted on Carlson's show that this war may soon be over, and later in the month, the Ukrainian army is bled white. Tens of thousands of Ukrainian troops have been killed or wounded. Ukraine, once again, is really on the ropes.
Well, he's making the rounds to all the places that you don't want to be on the media for anti-Ukraine sources, basically.
Yeah, and it's so, I gotta be honest with you, this guy just sounds like he's full of crap. Also, another thing that this shows is that it shows that just because you're West Point graduated does not mean you're intelligent. Apparently intelligence just comes from you being a person, and not from where you're from. Also, he went to the University of Virginia as well, a PhD. Also, he got a BS at West Point. I guess he's really emphasizing that now because he's spewing nothing but BS these days.
You have a BS too, though.
Huh?
You have a BS too.
Yeah, but I don't talk. But anyways, yeah, they're both idiots, pretty much. And also, I think it's ridiculous. What type of goof is this guy? He ended up retiring as a colonel. And he has no idea how wars are really fought, apparently, because he's just talking about how they're constantly on the ropes. You know, it's kind of interesting to me. I mean, hell, I'm not sitting here and telling y'all that Russia's on the ropes right now. I'm saying they'll probably last until midsummer until they give up. I'm not sitting there saying, it's any day now, they're going to quit. Oh, man. But anyways, I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And the question, because that was a pretty good question. I didn't even know about these two figures, and they are really something. And so with that, I hope that does address the comment fairly well. Thank you all so much once again for watching tonight. That was our final question of the question segment. Of course, if y'all did enjoy, make sure to hit the thumbs up and also subscribe, because these streams come on every single day of the week at 10 p.m. Eastern time, except for Mondays. We take that day off, but every other day of the week, you can always count on us to be here covering the war. And so with that, thank you all so much once again for watching. I hope you all enjoyed tonight fairly well. Good luck, stay safe, have a great night, and I will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern time. Take care, and Slava Ukraini. Yeehaw!
Yes. The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Усміхнеться доля, згинуть наші вороженьки, як роса на сонці, запануємо ми, браття, у своїй сторонці. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу.